Imagine a world shrouded in mist, high in the Andes Mountains. Picture deep, green valleys where clouds drift like silent rivers, caressing the slopes of ancient peaks. This is northern Peru, but we're not in the present day. We're traveling back in time, all the way to around 900 BCE. Long before the famous Inca Empire rose to power, another, more mysterious civilization was taking root in this breathtaking landscape. This is the story of Chavín de Huántar. Nestled between two towering mountain ranges, the Cordillera Blanca and the Cordillera Negra, the site of Chavin is one of the most remote and dramatic places on Earth. Even today, getting there is a journey. You have to wind your way up steep mountain roads, crossing passes that leave you breathless, both from the altitude and the sheer beauty. It's a place that feels disconnected from the rest of the world, a hidden sanctuary. And it was here, in this secluded valley, where two rivers meet, that one of South America's earliest and most influential cultures chose to build its ceremonial heart. It's easy to think of ancient Peru and immediately picture the Inca and Machu Picchu. Their empire was vast, their engineering incredible. But the story of civilization in the Andes is so much older, so much deeper. Millennia before the Inca forged their empire of the Four Quarters, other peoples were already building monumental temples, creating sophisticated art, and developing complex religious beliefs. Chavin is perhaps the most important of these early cultures, the mother culture of the Andes, as some archaeologists call it. What is so fascinating about Chavin is that it was an empire built on conquest and military might. There are no great fortresses here, no evidence of large-scale warfare. Instead, its influence spread through ideas, through religion, through a powerful cosmology that captured the imagination of people across a wide and diverse region. Chavin was a pilgrimage site, a place where people from distant valleys and coastal plains would travel to connect with the divine. It was the spiritual center of its world. So, how did this remote mountain settlement become such a powerful beacon? The answer lies buried within its stone walls, in its maze-like underground galleries, and in the terrifying, godlike images carved into its monoliths. The people of Chavin were masters of stone, but they were also masters of the human mind. They understood psychology, acoustics, and probably even the use of hallucinogenic plants to create transformative religious experiences. They weren't just building a temple, they were engineering belief itself. At the heart of the complex is the old temple, the earliest part of the site. It's a U-shaped structure, built around a circular, sunken plaza. This plaza was open to the sky, a stage where rituals would have unfolded before the eyes of pilgrims. Imagine it, the air thick with the smoke of incense, the rhythmic chanting of priests echoing off the stone walls, the Andes Mountains forming a dramatic, sacred backdrop. The architecture itself was designed to create a sense of awe and reverence. But the real mysteries of Chavin lie underground. Beneath the temple is a network of narrow, stone-lined tunnels, or galleries. Walking through them today is an eerie experience. It's dark, cool, and disorienting. The passages twist and turn, sometimes opening into small chambers, other times leading to dead ends. They were not designed for casual strolling. They were built to be navigated in near total darkness, perhaps with only the flickering light of a single torch. The acoustics in these galleries are astonishing. A word spoken in one chamber can be heard clearly in another, while a whisper can sound like it's right behind you. The sound of water flowing through hidden canals, built by Chavin engineers, would have filled the subterranean world with a constant, mysterious murmur. It was a sensory deprivation chamber and a hall of mirrors for the years, all at once. This was a place designed to break down a person's sense of ordinary reality and open them up to the supernatural. And at the very center of this labyrinth, in the deepest, most sacred chamber, stands one of the most incredible artifacts of the ancient world. The Lanzón. It's a massive blade of granite, 4.5 meters tall, carved into the form of a snarling, fanged deity. The Lanzón is wedged between the floor and ceiling of its own special gallery, and it has stood in this exact spot for 3,000 years. It wasn't brought in and placed here. The temple was literally built around it. This figure is the primary god of Chavin. It has a human body, but the head of a jaguar or caiman, with snakes for hair and eyebrows. Its mouth is wide open, showing massive fangs, and its eyes stare upwards. It's a terrifying, powerful image, a being that seems to bridge the worlds of the sky, the earth, and the underworld. To come face to face with this deity, after navigating the dark, disorienting galleries must have been an overwhelming, life-changing experience. This was the climax of the pilgrimage, the moment the initiate met their god. The art of Chavin is filled with these kinds of hybrid creatures, what archaeologists call therianthrope figures. We see jaguars, eagles, snakes, and caimans, the most powerful predators of the jungle, mountains, and rivers blended with human forms. These weren't just monsters, they were representations of spiritual power. The shaman priests of Chavin were believed to be able to transform themselves into these powerful animals, to travel to the spirit world and bring back knowledge and power. This transformational journey was likely aided by psychoactive substances. On the carvings at Chavin, we see depictions of the San Pedro cactus, a native plant that contains mescaline and is known for its powerful hallucinogenic effects. We even see figures with mucus dripping from their noses, a common side effect of using certain psychoactive snuffs. The priests weren't just telling stories about the spirit world. They were providing a direct, visceral way for people to experience it. The combination of the architecture, the acoustics, the darkness, and these substances created a powerful and highly controlled religious experience. This potent blend of art, architecture, and ritual is what allowed Chavinist influence to spread so far. People who made the difficult journey to the temple and went through its rituals would return to their home villages transformed, carrying with them the stories, the iconography, and the beliefs of Chavin. They brought back Chavin-style pottery and textiles. Local leaders likely emulated the power of the Chavin priests, adopting their religious system to bolster their own authority. In this way, Chavin became the center of a vast religious network, a web of shared belief that connected dozens of different cultures across the Andes. But as with all great civilizations, Chavin's golden age eventually came to an end, around 500 BCE. After centuries of influence, the site began to decline. Why? We don't know for sure. It could have been environmental change, like a major earthquake or a series of devastating floods. It might have been social upheaval, or the rise of new, competing religious centers. Whatever the reason, the pilgrimages slowed to a trickle. The great temple fell into disuse, and eventually, the site was abandoned, left to be slowly buried by the soil and forgotten by all but the local people who lived in its shadow. For centuries, Chavín de Huántar was little more than a local legend, a place known as El Castillo, the castle. But the secrets of its past were waiting to be rediscovered. In the 20th century, pioneering archaeologists, most notably the Peruvian Julio Citello, began to excavate the site, slowly peeling back the layers of time. What they found would rewrite the history of South America. They unearthed the sunken plazas, cleared the underground galleries, and brought the fearsome gods of Chavin back into the light. Today, Chavín de Huántar is a UNESCO World Heritage Site, a testament to the ingenuity and spiritual depth of this ancient culture. But even with all we've learned, it remains a place of profound mystery. We can analyze its art and map its tunnels, but we can never truly know what it felt like to be a pilgrim 3,000 years ago, stepping out of the Andean sunlight and into the sacred darkness of the temple. Chavin reminds us that history is not just a story of kings and empires, but also a journey into the minds and beliefs of the people who came before us. It challenges us to look beyond the stone and imagine the world of spirits, transformation, and divine power that they created here, in this hidden valley beneath the Andes. Thank you for joining me on this journey back in time. If you enjoyed this exploration of Chavin, make sure to like, subscribe, and hit the notification bell so you do not miss the next chapter in our series on lost civilizations. See you next time. Imagine stumbling upon a lost city, a place where stone speaks in riddles of jaguars and supernatural beings. That's exactly what happened to the first modern explorers who rediscovered Chavín de Huántar. For centuries, this ancient site lay hidden in the Peruvian Andes, its secrets guarded by the mountains. When early adventurers and travelers began to venture into this remote valley in the 19th and early 20th centuries, they were utterly bewildered. They found massive stone structures and bizarre, intricate carvings unlike anything they had ever seen. The air was thick with mystery. Who were the people who built this place? What did these strange symbols mean? The carvings were a mind-bending mix of fierce animals, jaguars with bared fangs, coiling serpents, and powerful eagles, all blended with human-like faces that seemed to stare out from another dimension. These were not just decorations. They felt like a language, a code that no one could decipher. For a long time, Chavin was just a local legend, a place of strange stones that locals called El Castillo, the castle. It was a puzzle box without a key, a monumental question mark left by a forgotten civilization. The initial reports that trickled out to the wider world were met with a mix of fascination and disbelief. Were these just the random creations of a primitive tribe, or were they clues to a much grander story? The truth, it turned out, would be more astonishing than anyone could have imagined, and it would take a visionary archaeologist to begin fitting the pieces together. Enter Julio Santello, a name that echoes through the halls of Peruvian history. Tello, often hailed as the father of Peruvian archaeology, was a man of indigenous descent with an unquenchable passion for uncovering his country's ancient past. In 1919, he arrived at Chavín de Huántar, and what he saw changed the course of archaeology forever. Unlike the foreign explorers before him, Tello didn't just see strange carvings. He saw a complex, sophisticated system of belief. He saw the heart of a powerful culture. Tello was the first to realize that Chavin wasn't just some isolated ceremonial center. He proposed a revolutionary idea, that Chavin was a cultura matriz, a mother culture, the origin point from which many later Andean civilizations drew their artistic and religious inspiration. This was a radical concept at the time. The prevailing theory was that major cultural developments in Peru had been imported from but Tello argued for an indigenous origin, with Chavin as the source. He dedicated his life to proving this theory, conducting extensive excavations and meticulously documenting everything he found. He saw the recurring motifs of the jaguar, the serpent, and the eagle not just as animal depictions, but as powerful deities representing the sky, the earth, and the underworld. He understood that this was a complex cosmology carved in stone, a sacred place designed to connect humans with the divine. Tello's work wasn't just about digging up artifacts. It was about restoring a sense of pride and a deep historical narrative to the Peruvian people. He was the one who gave Chavin its voice back after millennia of silence. One of the most mind-blowing aspects of Chavín de Huántar, something that truly astonished Tello and every researcher since, is what lies beneath the surface. This isn't just a collection of temples built on flat ground. It's a labyrinth. The main structures, like the Castillo, are actually hollow. They're riddled with a complex network of underground passages, galleries, and ventilation shafts. Imagine walking through these narrow, stone-lined corridors, deep inside a man-made mountain with only the faint light of a torch guiding your way. These weren't storage tunnels. Archaeologists believe they were an integral part of Chavin's religious rituals. The acoustics in these galleries are extraordinary. A sound made in one chamber can be channeled and amplified, emerging in another part of the complex as a disembodied voice or a terrifying roar. Think about the psychological impact this would have on initiates or pilgrims. They would be navigating a dark, disorienting maze, while hearing the booming voices of priests or sounds designed to mimic the roar of a jaguar, their supreme deity. It would have been an overwhelming, transformative experience, designed to break down the individual's sense of self and open their minds to the spiritual world. These tunnels connected different chambers and plazas, controlling the flow of people, air, and even water. Yes, they even built complex canals that ran through the galleries, creating the sound of rushing water. Deep underground, this incredible feat of engineering demonstrates a level of planning and knowledge that was simply staggering for a culture that existed 3,000 years ago. Chavin wasn't just built, it was orchestrated. It was a living, breathing machine for religious experience. At the very heart of this labyrinth, in the deepest, most sacred part of the old temple, Tello made his most iconic discovery. There, standing in a cruciform chamber at the center of the world, was a towering stone monolith. He named it the Lanzón because it's shaped like a giant spear, or Lanzón in Spanish, with its point stuck into the ground and its top reaching toward the ceiling. This wasn't just a statue, it was an axis mundi, a cosmic pillar connecting the heavens, the earth, and the underworld. The Lanzón is carved with the image of Chavin's primary deity, a terrifying and awe-inspiring figure. It has a human body but a feline head with snarling fangs, and its hair and belt are made of writhing snakes. This is the god that pilgrims would have faced at the climax of their journey through the dark passages. But here's the most incredible part. Only the high priests could enter this chamber. Most people would never see the Lanzón directly. Instead, they would hear its voice. An opening in the ceiling directly above the monolith leads up to a plaza on the surface. Priests could speak into this opening, and their voice would travel down the shaft, reverberating off the Lanzón and echoing through the galleries, sounding like the voice of the god itself. It was an ingenious piece of spiritual theater. The discovery of the Lanzón, in its original, sacred context, was the key that unlocked the purpose of the entire complex. It confirmed that Chavin was a place of powerful religious pilgrimage, where architecture, art, and acoustics were all masterfully combined to create profound spiritual experiences. It cemented Telo's theory of Chavin as a central hub of a vast religious movement that spread across the ancient Andes. The more archaeologists dug, the more wonders they unearthed. They found plazas, sunken courtyards, and more incredible stone art. One of these is the famous Ramondi stela, a massive slab of granite intricately carved with another version of the Chavin deity. What's amazing about this stela is its visual duality. If you look at it one way, you see a fierce god holding two staffs, a symbol of authority. But if you flip the image upside down, it transforms into a completely different picture, a chain of smiling, fanged faces cascading downwards. This visual trickery shows the incredible sophistication of the Chavin artists. They weren't just carving images. They were embedding multiple layers of meaning, creating a dynamic visual language that could be read in different ways. Another key discovery was the Telo obelisk, a caiman-like creature covered in a dense tapestry of mythological figures and plants. It's like a creation story in stone, a visual encyclopedia of the Chavin cosmos. And then there are the Tenon heads. These are the monstrous stone heads that once jutted out from the temple walls, staring down at the plazas below. They depict the transformation of shamans into their spirit animals, like jaguars. Their faces are contorted. Their noses are running with mucosa dita. Archaeologists believe represents the use of psychoactive snuff-and. Their eyes are wide and bulging. These heads weren't just decorations. They were guardians of the temple and a public display of the shamanic transformation that was at the core of Chavin religion. Each discovery added a new layer to our understanding, revealing Chavín de Huántar as not just a mother culture, but as a center of artistic innovation, engineering genius, and profound spiritual power that shaped the Andes for 1,000 years. Thank you for watching. If you found this journey into the past as fascinating as I did, don't forget to like, subscribe, and hit that bell icon for more stories from our ancient world. Welcome back to our journey into the heart of an ancient civilization. Today, we step into their most sacred space, the monumental temple complex. This wasn't just a building, it was the center of their universe, a place where the earthly and the divine came together in a symphony of stone, light, and water. As we explore, try to imagine yourself as a pilgrim, undertaking a journey of a lifetime to reach this hallowed ground. Let's begin our approach. For many, the journey would have been long and arduous, crossing rugged mountains and deep valleys. The anticipation would build with every step. Finally, you would see it, rising from the valley flora structure unlike any other. Before you stands a vast, sunken circular plaza. This wasn't just an empty space. It was the first stage of your spiritual experience. Imagine it filled with hundreds, maybe thousands, of fellow pilgrims, the air thick with chants, music, and the smell of incense. This plaza was designed to gather the community, to unify them before they ascended to the more sacred areas. It was a place of public ceremony, a space to prepare your mind and spirit for what lay ahead. From the edge of the plaza, your eyes are drawn upward to the temple itself. What you're seeing isn't one single structure, but two main parts built over centuries. The story of this site is written in its very architecture. First, there was the old temple, a U-shaped building that formed the original core of worship. As the society grew and its influence spread, a new, larger section was added, the new temple. This expansion didn't replace the old one. It enveloped it, creating a complex, layered space where generations of faith and construction overlapped. This phased building process tells us that this site remained vital for hundreds of years, adapting and expanding with the beliefs of its people. Now, let's begin the ascent. From the circular plaza, you face a grand ceremonial stairway. Each step is a deliberate act, lifting you from the communal, public space below into the realm of the gods. The climb is steep, designed to be slow and reverent. As you ascend, the sounds of the plaza fade, replaced by a growing sense of quiet and focus. You're leaving the everyday world behind. The walls flanking these stairs are not bare. They are covered in intricate stone carvings. These aren't just decorations. They are sacred texts in stone. Let's look closer at these carvings. You see powerful, otherworldly figures. Half-human, half-animal deities with glaring eyes and fanged mouths. There are jaguars, eagles, and serpents, all creatures of immense power and significance in their cosmology. These weren't meant to be simply frightening. They were guardians of the sacred space, reminders of the immense supernatural forces that govern the world. For a pilgrim, seeing these carvings would be an awe-inspiring, perhaps even terrifying, experience. It was a visual reminder that you were entering a liminal space, a threshold between the human world and the world of spirits and gods. Each carved panel tells a story, perhaps of creation myths, divine battles, or the lineage of powerful priests. As we reach the top of the main stairway, we find ourselves at the entrance to the temple's core. And here is where the true genius of its design becomes apparent. This temple was built to be a sensory machine, engineered to master the elements of light, sound, and water. It was a stage for profound ritual experiences. Let's talk about the temple's passages and chambers were constructed with specific orientations. At certain times of the year, like the solstices, shafts of light would penetrate the darkness, illuminating a specific carving or altar. Imagine being a pilgrim deep inside a dark passage, and suddenly, a beam of sunlight dramatically lights up the face of a god. It would feel like a direct communication from the heavens, a divine sign affirming the power of the priests and the reality of their gods. Now, let's consider sound. The acoustics within the temple are extraordinary. The architects built a complex network of hidden galleries and air ducts within the stone walls. These weren't for ventilation, they were for sound. Priests could be hidden within these passages, their voices, or the sound of instruments, echoing through the chambers, seemingly coming from the stone walls themselves or from the statues of the deities. The roar of a jaguar or the sound of rushing wind could be produced, creating the illusion that the gods were speaking directly to the worshippers gathered below. It was a masterful use of acoustic engineering to create a powerful psychological and spiritual effect, blurring the line between the natural and the supernatural. And finally, water. Water was life, and here it was controlled with incredible precision. An elaborate system of canals, many of them carved directly into the bedrock beneath the temple, ran through and around the complex. These channels weren't just for drainage. The sound of running water would have been a constant presence, a soothing, cleansing murmur that filled the sacred spaces. During rituals, water could be diverted, appearing or disappearing as if by magic. Some theories suggest these canals were used to create a mirror-like effect on the floors of certain chambers, reflecting the heavens and creating a sense of being in another dimension. The control of water was a demonstration of the priest's power to mediate with the forces of nature, to bring order and fertility to the world. So, picture the full experience. You've journeyed for weeks. You've gathered with thousands in the sunken plaza. You've climbed the ceremonial stairs, flanked by terrifying and awesome stone guardians. You enter a dark, cool interior. A disembodied voice chants from the walls around you. A sudden shaft of light illuminates a fanged deity. The sound of rushing water echoes from beneath your feet. This wasn't just a visit to a temple. It was a carefully orchestrated, multisensory, transformative experience. It was designed to overwhelm the senses, to instill a profound sense of awe and reverence, and to reinforce the cosmic order that placed the gods and their priests at the very center of existence. This sacred temple complex was more than just stone. It was a living, breathing entity. A portal to another world. Thank you for joining me on this exploration of the sacred temple. The ingenuity and spiritual depth of its creators are truly breathtaking. In our next chapter, we'll delve deeper into the mysterious figures and artifacts found within these very walls. Don't forget to like, subscribe, and hit the notification bell so you don't miss it. See you next time. Welcome back to our journey into the heart of the Andes. In our last chapter, we uncovered the architectural marvels of Chavín de Huántar. Today, we're diving into Chapter 4, Pilgrimage and the High Priesthood, to understand how this stone city became the spiritual epicenter for a vast and diverse region. Imagine, for a moment, you're a traveler 3,000 years ago. You've journeyed for weeks, maybe even months, crossing treacherous mountain passes, dense jungles, or arid coastlines. Your destination, Chavín de Huántar. This wasn't just a city. It was the ultimate pilgrimage site of its time, a place where the earthly and divine worlds were said to meet. People from all corners of the Andean world were drawn here, creating a vibrant cultural melting pot. We know this because of the offerings they left behind, a testament to their long and arduous journeys. Archaeologists have unearthed caches of precious goods that are not native to this high-altitude valley. They found beautiful spondylus shells, their distinctive orange and pink hues glowing like embers. These shells could only have come from the warm coastal waters of modern-day Ecuador, hundreds of miles away. Their presence here tells a story of extensive trade networks and the immense value placed on these marine treasures, likely associated with water, fertility, and the divine. Alongside the shells, we find sharp, glass-like obsidian. This volcanic rock, prized for its use in creating razor-sharp tools and ceremonial blades, was sourced from quarries high up in the mountains, far from Chavín. Each piece represents a connection to the powerful volcanic forces that shaped the Andean landscape. And then there are the remnants of dazzlingly colored feathers, belonging to macaws and other exotic birds. These could only have been sourced from the deep, humid Amazon rainforest to the east. The feathers were likely used in elaborate headdresses and textiles, their vibrant colors symbolizing the life and power of the jungle. These offerings weren't just random trinkets. They were carefully chosen, powerful symbols from distinct ecological zones: the coast, the highlands, and the jungle. By bringing these items to Chavín, pilgrims were, in a sense, bringing their entire world to the feet of the gods. They were weaving together the diverse landscapes of their reality into a single, sacred tapestry at the center of the cosmos. This act of bringing offerings from far and wide reinforced Chavín status as a pan-regional sanctuary, a place that held significance for countless different communities. So, what drew these pilgrims from so far away? What profound experience awaited them that was worth such a difficult journey? The answer lies with the powerful priests of Chavín and the carefully orchestrated rituals they conducted. These spiritual leaders weren't just praying. They were masters of sensory manipulation, architects of the divine. They understood how to use architecture, sound, water, and even psychoactive substances to guide pilgrims toward a transcendental experience. Let's step inside the temple complex, into the labyrinthine galleries we explored earlier. Picture it. You are led away from the bright Andean sun into a narrow, stone-lined corridor. The air grows cool and still. The only light comes from a flickering torch, casting long, dancing shadows on the stone walls carved with snarling fangs and serpentine eyes. Your sense of direction is lost in the maze-like passages. You are completely at the mercy of your priestly guide. Now, at the element of sound. The priests of Chavín were masters of acoustics. The temple was engineered to be a musical instrument. They used conch-shelled trumpets, known as puchudes tokrit. They have resonant blasts that would echo through the stone channels. Imagine that sound seeming to come from the very rock around you, vibrating through your entire body. The priests knew which passages would amplify the sound, which would distort it, and how to make it seem as though the gods themselves were speaking. It would have been an awe-inspiring, and perhaps terrifying, experience. But sound was only one part of the sensory symphony. Water was another key instrument. An intricate network of underground canals ran beneath the temple. These weren't just for drainage. By controlling the flow of water through different-sized channels, The priests could create a range of sounds, from a gentle gurgle to a deafening roar that mimicked the sound of a jaguar, one of their most powerful deities. As a pilgrim, you would hear this roaring sound seemingly emanating from the earth beneath you, further blurring the line between the natural and the supernatural. The priests were literally creating a living, breathing, roaring temple. And finally, we come to the most potent tool in the priest's spiritual arsenal, Ajusinorins. Evidence suggests the priests used substances derived from local plants, most famously the San Pedro cactus. This cactus contains mescaline, a powerful psychedelic compound. Carvings on the stele and pottery at Chavin depict figures holding what are clearly identifiable as San Pedro cacti. Priests would prepare a beverage from the cactus, which, when consumed, would induce altered states of consciousness, vivid visions, and a profound sense of connection to the spiritual world. Now, put it all together. You are in a dark, disorienting labyrinth. You hear the thunderous roar of water and the unearthly blast of concha shells echoing around you. You have consumed a psychoactive brew. The carvings on the walls seem to writhe and come to life in the flickering torchlight. Your senses are overwhelmed. Intistat, the priest, who appears to you as a conduit to the divine, would guide your spiritual journey. He might reveal the images of the Lanzón deity, making it seem as if you are truly standing in the presence of a god. This wasn't about deception. It was about transformation. The goal was to break down a person's ordinary perception of reality and open them up to what the Chavin people believed was a deeper, more profound truth. The pilgrims would emerge from the dark labyrinth back into the sunlight, forever changed by what they had seen, heard, and felt. They had communed with the gods, and the priests of Chavin were the gatekeepers of that experience. This mastery of ritual and sensory experience is what cemented Chavín de Huántar's power. News of these transformative journeys would spread, carried by returning pilgrims to their homes across the Andes. They would speak of the roaring temples and the visions they witnessed, inspiring others to make the same sacred journey. Through this process, the influence of Chavinese art style, its religious ideology, and its powerful priesthood spread, creating the first great cultural unification in the Andes, known as the Chavin Horizon. Next time, we will delve deeper into the pantheon of gods they worshipped and the intricate cosmology carved into the stones of this incredible site. We'll decode the messages left behind by this mysterious and brilliant civilization. Thank you so much for joining me on this exploration. If you're enjoying this journey, please hit that like button, subscribe, and ring the bell so you don't miss the next chapter. See you then. Deep within the labyrinthine heart of Chavín de Huántar, we arrive at the central chamber, a space designed to instill awe and terror. Here stands the Lanzón, a monumentized spear-shaped monolith of granite, reaching nearly 5 meters from the floor to the ceiling. This is not just a statue. It is the very axis of the Chavin cosmos, the pivot point around which their entire world revolved. Carved into this single stone is the principal deity of Chavin, a being that defies simple categorization. It is a powerful, terrifying figure, a testament to the skill and vision of its creators. The Lanzón is a being of profound transformation, a creature caught between worlds. Look closely at its features. Its mouth is agape, revealing 2 pairs of enormous fangs, unmistakably those of a jaguar or caiman, apex predators of the jungle. This represents the raw, untamed power of the natural world, the ferocity of the earth itself. Yet, the overall face is strikingly human, a recognizable visage that anchors this divine power in our own reality. This blending suggests a shamanic journey, a human who has transcended their physical form to commune with the animal spirits, gaining their strength and wisdom. And then there is the hair. What should be locks of human hair are instead a writhing mass of snakes, each one a living, dynamic entity. Serpents, in many ancient cultures, symbolize the underworld, the earth, and the cycles of death and rebirth. They slither between the realms of the living and the dead. The deity's hair and eyebrows terminate in these serpent heads, reinforcing its connection to the chthonic, or underworld, forces. This combination of feline, human, and serpentine elements isn't just a random collection of cool features. It's a carefully constructed symbol of transformation, showing a being that embodies the sky, the earth, and the underworld all at once. It is a god of thresholds, a master of metamorphosis. This concept is known as the axis mundi, or cosmic axis. The Lanzón physically and symbolically connects the different layers of the Chavin universe. Its base is rooted in the earth, the realm of the underworld and ancestors. Its midsection, with its human face, represents the world of the living, our terrestrial plane, and its peak, touching the ceiling of the gallery, reaches toward the heavens, the celestial realm of the sun, moon, and stars. The statue is a cosmic pillar, a channel through which divine energy could flow between these realms. It was the absolute center of their spiritual world, the point where all forces converged. Now, let's transport ourselves back 3,000 years. Imagine you are a pilgrim, having traveled for weeks, even months, from a distant village. You have fasted. You have prepared yourself spiritually for this moment. You are led by a priest through the disorienting, dark, and narrow passageways of the old temple. The air is thick with the scent of incense and echoes with sounds you can't quite identify. Perhaps the rush of water from the hidden canals or the low chanting of the priests. You are likely under the influence of the San Pedro cactus, its psychoactive properties heightening your senses, blurring the lines between reality and the spirit world. Finally, after this sensory ordeal, you are brought into this small, cruciform chamber. Your eyes struggle to adjust to the gloom, lit only by the flickering flame of a single torch. And then you see it. Emerging from the shadows is the Lanzón. In the dancing, unstable light, the carved lines seem to move. The jaguar fangs seem to snap. The serpent hair appears to writhe and hiss. The human face stares back at you with an unnerving intensity. It would have been an overwhelming, terrifying, and profoundly transformative experience. The deity wasn't just a stone carving. In that moment, it was alive. The rituals performed here were likely shamanic in nature. The priests, acting as intermediaries, would channel the power of the Lanzón. They might have made offerings, perhaps of precious shells, textiles, or even blood, anointing the stone to activate its power. The acoustics of the chamber, combined with the rushing water in the canals below, would have created a thunderous, otherworldly roar. The priests could have manipulated these sounds, making it seem as if the oracle itself was speaking, its voice booming from the stone. The pilgrim, in their altered state, would have perceived this not as a trick, but as direct communion with the divine. The purpose of this intense ritual was to break down the individual's sense of self and remake them within the Savian cosmic order. You would leave this chamber fundamentally changed, having faced the raw power of the universe and survived. You would return to your community, not just as a person who had visited a temple, but as one who had met God. This experience would bind you and your people to the Chavin cult, reinforcing its religious and political authority across the Andes. The Lanzón was more than a sculpture. It was a tool for spiritual engineering, an engine of belief, and the stone heart of a civilization. It remains there today, a silent, powerful testament to a world where the boundaries between human, animal, and God were thrillingly, terrifyingly blurred. Thanks for watching, and don't forget to like and subscribe for more journeys into the ancient world. Welcome back to our journey through the ancient Andes. Today, we're venturing deep into the spiritual heart of South American civilizations to explore one of their most powerful and revered symbols. The feline. From the dense jungles to the high mountains, the jaguar and the puma were more than just animals. They were gods, protectors, and symbols of ultimate power. Let's uncover why these magnificent cats captivated the ancient imagination. In the world of the Chavin, the Mocha, and the Inca, the jaguar was the undisputed king. Think about it. This is an apex predator. It moves with stealth, possesses incredible strength, and its roar can shake the very ground. For ancient peoples living so close to nature, the jaguar was the embodiment of raw, untamed power. It was seen as the master of the underworld, the lord of the night, a creature that could traverse the realms of the living and the dead. Its spotted coat was often compared to the starry night sky, linking it directly to the cosmos and the mysteries of the universe. To wear the pelt of a jaguar, or to be depicted with jaguar features, wasn't just a fashion statement. It was a declaration of authority and divine right. Rulers and shamans sought to channel the jaguar's spirit to gain its strength, vision, and ferocity. But why was this symbolism so widespread? Let's look at the Chavin culture, which flourished around 900 BCE for them. The jaguar was central to their entire cosmology. Their most famous deity, the staff god, is often shown with feline fangs and claws. This wasn't just a simple mix and match of features. The Chavin believed in transformation. They saw the world as fluid, where the boundaries between human, animal, and divine were permeable. A shaman, through ritual and psychotropic plants, like the San Pedro cactus, could transform, taking on the attributes of the jaguar to communicate with the spirit world. This is where we see the concept of the hybrid being. These half-human, half-feline figures were not monsters. They were intermediaries. They were spiritual conduits, beings who could walk in both the physical world and the supernatural realm. Think of them as the ultimate spiritual ambassadors. The famous Lanzón monolith at Chavín de Huántar depicts such a being, a snarling anthropomorphic figure with fangs and claws, a powerful oracle connecting the people to their gods. This belief highlights a profound respect for the natural world, seeing animals not as lesser beings, but as holders of sacred knowledge and power that humans could aspire to. The jaguar was the ultimate guide on this spiritual quest, a symbol of inner transformation and the journey into the depths of one's own consciousness. Now, let's travel south and forward in time to the Mocha civilization, who dominated the northern coast of Peru. While the Moche also revered the jaguar, they introduced another powerful feline into their pantheon, the puma, or mountain lion. The puma, a master of the high Andes, represented a different kind of power. It symbolized agility, territorial dominance, and the strength of the mountains themselves. Mocha art is filled with incredible depictions of feline-headed warriors and deities. One of the most prominent is Ayapec, often called the Decapitator, a fearsome god shown with a snarling feline mouth, brandishing a knife. Ayapec was a god of creation, water, and agriculture, but also a fierce protector and a god of war. His feline attributes signaled his absolute authority and his role as a bringer of both life and death, reflecting the harsh dualities of the coastal desert environment. Comparing the Chavin and the Mocha, we see a fascinating evolution. The Chavin's felines were more focused on shamanic transformation and spiritual journeys, representing the inner power of the individual to connect with the divine. The Mokia, on the other hand, externalized this power. Their feline gods were active players in the cosmos, engaged in battles, overseeing rituals, and directly influencing the lives of the people. Their felines were symbols of societal order, military might, and the power of the state, embodied by their god. The symbolism shifted from personal spiritual transformation to the divine justification of social and political structures. As we move further into the timeline, we arrive at the mighty Inca Empire. The Inca absorbed and adapted many of the beliefs of the cultures they conquered, and feline symbolism was no exception. For the Inca, the puma was particularly significant. The very capital of their empire, Cusco, was said to have been designed in the shape of a puma, with the fortress of Sacsayhuaman forming its head. This was a powerful statement, embedding the puma spirit into the very layout of their sacred city. The puma symbolized the power of the earthly realm, known as Kapasha. It represented strength, patience, and the terrestrial world that humans inhabit. The Inca trilogy of sacred animals included the condor for the upper world, the snake for the underworld, and the puma for the world of the living. This beautifully illustrates how the Incas systematized these ancient beliefs into a cohesive and unified cosmic vision. So, from the Chavin's transformational shaman jaguar, to the Mocha's warrior gods, and the Inca's puma-shaped capital, the feline remained a constant source of awe and reverence. It was a symbol that could represent the mysterious depths of the psyche, the terrifying power of a warrior god, and the foundational strength of an entire empire. These ancient cultures saw in the jaguar and the puma a reflection of the most powerful forces in their universe: life, death, transformation, and divinity. The feline wasn't just an animal, it was a key that unlocked the secrets of the cosmos. Understanding this symbolism is crucial to deciphering the art, architecture, and religion of ancient South America. When you see those fangs and claws on a piece of pottery or a stone carving, you're not just looking at a depiction of an animal. You're looking at a complex symbol of power, a gateway to the spirit world, and a testament to a worldview where humans and nature were profoundly and inextricably linked. It is a powerful reminder of a time when the roar of a jaguar could be heard as the voice of a god. Thank you so much for joining me on this deep dive into the world of feline deities. It's a truly fascinating subject that shows just how rich and complex these ancient belief systems were. If you enjoyed this exploration, please hit that like button. And don't forget to subscribe and turn on notifications so you don't miss our next chapter. We have so much more to uncover together. Thanks for watching, and see you next time. Welcome back to our journey through ancient wonders. In this chapter, we're delving into the heart of the civilization itself, etched into the very stones they lived with. Forget written words for a moment. Imagine a world where stories, beliefs, and power were all communicated through stone. This is the art of stone carving. Look closely at these surfaces. They aren't just decorated. They are alive with intricate details. We're talking about breathtaking relief carvings that seem to emerge from the flat stone, full-bodied sculptures that command your attention, and motifs so complex they draw you into another world. Every single mark we see was intentional, a testament to the skill and vision of these ancient artisans. How did they achieve such mastery? It wasn't with modern power tools, that's for sure. It was a slow, deliberate conversation between the artist and the stone. The process began with the raw material, a massive block of stone chosen for its quality and character. The first tools were simple but effective. These were hard, rounded river cobbles used to roughly shape the block, knocking off large, unwanted chunks. It was a physically demanding and imprecise start, but it laid the foundation for the masterpiece to come. Once the general form was achieved, a new level of precision began with the introduction of chisels. Early chisels were likely made of even harder stone, like flint or obsidian, painstakingly flaked to create a sharp edge. These were used to chip away smaller pieces, refining the shape and starting to define the features. Imagine the sound, the rhythmic tap-tap-tap of stone on stone, echoing for hours, days, even weeks. It was a test of endurance and foresight. Each strike had to be calculated. One wrong move could shatter a month's work. As their technology evolved, they developed bronze, and later, iron chisels. This was a game changer. Metal tools allowed for much finer detail and greater control. Artists could now carve sharper lines, deeper grooves, and more delicate features than ever before. With a mallet in one hand and a chisel in the other, they could truly sculpt. They could shave off paper-thin layers of stone, a process requiring immense skill and a steady hand. But the most crucial tool of all wasn't something they could hold. It was patience. This art form wasn't about speed. It was about perfection. It was about the slow, meditative process of revealing the form hidden within the stone. Polishing was the final step. Using sand and water, they would meticulously rub the surface, smoothing out the chisel marks and bringing the stone to a beautiful, lustrous finish that could last for millennia. When you touch one of these ancient carvings today, you're not just touching stone. You're retouching the countless hours of dedication and the patient soul of an artist from a forgotten time. Now, let's explore the visual language they spoke. As we examine these carvings across different sites and periods, recurring patterns begin to emerge. These aren't random decorations. They are powerful symbols, a shared vocabulary of the sacred. One of the most striking and common motifs is the fanged mouth, often wide and snarling, with long, pronounced canines. These mouths aren't just about aggression. They represent a powerful, supernatural being, perhaps a deity or a shaman in a transformed state. The fangs signify a predator, something beyond the human, commanding respect and awe. It's a symbol of spiritual power and authority, a gateway to the otherworld. You see it on monoliths, on ceremonial objects, and even on personal adornments. This wasn't just a scary face. It was a constant reminder of the potent forces that governed their world. Next, look for the talons, sharp, curved claws, often belonging to a bird of prey like an eagle or a hawk. These weren't just representations of animals. They symbolized the celestial realm, the sky, and the sun. Birds of prey were seen as messengers between the earthly and the divine, able to soar to heights humans could only dream of. The talons, therefore, represented a connection to the heavens, swiftness, and predatory power from above. Often, you'll see these talons combined with other features, creating hybrid beings, a fanged creature with eagle's feet. This blending of symbols created complex, new meanings, telling sophisticated stories about the nature of their cosmos, where the powers of the sky, earth, and underworld were intertwined. The precision in carving these talons, each sharp point and curve perfectly rendered, shows just how important this symbol was to them. Another pervasive element is the eye, but these are rarely simple, human eyes. They are often large, stylized, and hypnotic. Sometimes they are concentric circles, drawing you into their center. Other times, they are almond-shaped with an eccentric pupil, giving the impression of a trance-like state or a being that sees beyond our reality. The eye is a universal symbol of perception, consciousness, and knowledge. In these carvings, they often represent divine sight, the all-seeing gaze of a god or an ancestor. When you stand before a statue covered in these eyes, you get the distinct feeling of being watched, of being in the presence of something knowing and powerful. These eyes were not just looking at the people. They were a channel through which the divine looked out into the world, and a portal through which a shaman might look into the spirit realm. Finally, we see the serpentine patterns, winding, flowing, and endlessly looping. These designs evoke the image of snakes. Snakes were deeply symbolic creatures, associated with the earth, water, and the underworld. Their ability to shed their skin made them powerful symbols of renewal, transformation, and rebirth. The undulating lines of serpentine motifs mimic the flow of rivers and the very energy of life itself. You'll find these patterns framing doorways, wrapping around columns, and flowing across stone panels. They are not just decorative borders, they represent the cyclical nature of time, the connection between life and death, and the regenerative power of the natural world. These complex, interlocking serpentine forms show a mastery of abstract design, turning a simple line into a profound statement about the very fabric of existence. Together, the fangs, talons, eyes, and serpents formed a rich and powerful symbolic system. So, why go to all this trouble? Why spend generations perfecting the art of stone carving to create these specific images? Because in a culture without a widespread written language, this was their library, their scripture, and their constitution, all carved in stone. These motifs weren't just art. They were a form of communication far more immediate and universal than text. A written script can only be read by the literate, but a powerful image can be understood by everyone, regardless of their status or education. When a pilgrim approached a temple and saw a towering monolith covered in the snarling faces of fanged gods, they didn't need to read a sign to understand they were entering a sacred and powerful space. The message was visceral, emotional, and immediate. It communicated the social order, the spiritual beliefs, and the fundamental truths of their culture in a way that resonated deeply with the human psyche. These carvings were public declarations of power and belief. A ruler's stela covered in symbols of divine lineage and celestial power was a clear statement of their right to rule. It wasn't just a portrait, it was a cosmic justification. The reliefs on the temple wall weren't just pretty pictures. They were narrative panels, telling the stories of creation, the deeds of the gods, and the rituals that maintained balance in the universe. They were visual prayers, instructions for ceremonies, and historical records all in one. By repeating these motifs to fangs, the talons, the eyes, the serpents, they reinforced their collective worldview, ensuring that their cultural memory was passed down through the ages. The stone itself ensured permanence. Paper rots, and oral traditions can change, but stone endures. These artists were carving their soul into eternity, creating a silent, powerful language that we are, thousands of years later, just beginning to learn how to read. They are a timeless testament to the human need to make sense of the world, and to leave a mark that says, we were here. Thank you for joining me as we've decoded the silent language of the stones. This incredible art form shows us that writing is the only way to tell a story or build a legacy. Next time, we'll explore the monumental architecture these carvings adorned, and how they built their world stone by stone. If you've enjoyed this deep dive, make sure to like, subscribe, and hit that notification bell so you don't miss our next chapter. See you then. Welcome, bike seekers of ancient truths. Today, in our journey through the enigmatic Chavín de Huántar, we arrive at Chapter 8, the Tenon heads, guardians of the temple. If you've ever seen images of Chavin, you've likely been captivated by these stoic, projecting stone faces that once studied the high walls of the Castillo, the main temple structure. They are one of the most iconic and mysterious features of this entire sacred complex. So, what were they? Who or what do they represent? And what secrets do they hold? Let's delve into the world of these silent stone sentinels. The technical term for these sculptures is tenon heads, because each one is carved with a long stone peg, or tenon, at the back. This tenon was inserted deep into the masonry of the temple walls, anchoring the head firmly in place, making it seem as if the beings were emerging directly from the stone of the sacred mountain itself. Originally, there were dozens of them, perhaps over 100, forming a haunting procession high above the ceremonial plazas. Today, only one remains in its original position, a testament to the ravages of time, floods, and history. The rest are carefully preserved in museums, their collective gaze now falling upon modern visitors instead of ancient pilgrims. What makes the tenon head so utterly fascinating is their sheer diversity. No two heads are exactly alike. Each one is a unique masterpiece, a distinct personality frozen in stone. Some appear strikingly human, their features captured with a surprising degree of realism. You can see detailed noses, eyes, and mouths, though often with a supernatural twist. Others are clearly inspired by the powerful predators of the Andean world. We see the snarling mouths of felines, most likely jaguars or pumas, with bared fangs and intense, focused eyes. Then there are the serpents. Coils of snakes often erupt from the heads, replacing hair, forming eyebrows, or even emerging from the nostrils, their forked tongues flickering. And this is where it gets truly mind-bending. Many of the heads are not simply human, feline, or serpent. They are hybrids, incredible fusions of all three. A human-like face might have jaguar fangs and a crown of writhing snakes. Another might have the round eyes of a jungle cat with the smooth skin and features of a person. These are therianthrope beings, part human, part animal creatures, that exist in the liminal space between our world and the spirit realm. The craftsmanship is extraordinary. The sculptors managed to blend these different elements seamlessly, creating beings that are both terrifying and majestic, utterly alien yet strangely familiar. One of the most compelling theories about the purpose of these heads is that they represent a shamanic transformation. Imagine a priest or a spiritual leader ingesting the sacred San Pedro cactus, the psychoactive plant so central to Chavin cosmology. The heads, arranged in a sequence along the temple wall, might depict the various stages of their visionary journey. The sequence could begin with a human face, perhaps looking stressed or contorted. As you move along the line, feline and serpentine features begin to appear. Fangs emerge, pupils dilate, snakes sprout from the skin. Mucus, depicted as carved streams flowing from the nostrils, is a known side effect of ingesting San Pedro, and this detail is carved onto many of the heads. This visual narrative would have been a powerful public declaration of the transformative power of the Chavin religion. It showed the uninitiated what was possible. The shedding of one as human form to become something more, something divine, a powerful being in communion with the gods of the sky, earth, and underworld. Another, perhaps complementary, theory is that the tenon heads served as supernatural guardians. Positioned high on the temple walls, they stared out over the ceremonial plazas and the surrounding landscape. Their fierce expressions, bared fangs, and serpentine appendages were not just decorative. They were apotropaic. They were meant to ward off evil. They were the spiritual protectors of the sacred precinct. Their unblinking stone eyes, watching for any negative forces or unwelcome spirits that might try to approach the temple. They formed a magical barrier, ensuring that the sacred rituals performed within the temple's walls remained pure and undisturbed. In Teespeu, they are the eternal sentinels of Chavin, their fearsome visages a warning to all who might approach with ill intent. They guarded the boundary between the sacred and the profane. Now let's take a moment and just imagine. Imagine you are an ancient pilgrim, having traveled 4 weeks from your distant village. Finally arriving at the monumental center of Chavín de Huántar, you stand in the vast, sunken, circular plaza, your neck craned upwards. Above you, against the backdrop of the towering, snow-capped Andes, a line of these colossal stone heads stares down. The sun catches their features, casting deep shadows that make them seem to shift and grimace. Some are human, some are monsters, all are powerful. They are silent, yet their presence is overwhelming. You feel their collective gaze upon you, 100 pairs of eyes scrutinizing your soul, judging your worthiness to be in this sacred place. You feel a profound sense of awe, of fear, and of being in the presence of something ancient and immensely powerful. These are not mere sculptures. They are living presences, the gatekeepers to a different reality. Walking beneath them would feel like passing a gauntlet of gods and demons, a trial by sight before you could even enter the temple's hallowed, dark interior. The sheer psychological impact would have been immense, perfectly preparing the visitor's mind for the transformative experiences that awaited them inside. The mystery of the Tenon heads is that they were likely all of these things at once. Te Weriot. They were religious doctrine, they were psychological tools, and they were spiritual guardians. They're a perfect example of how the Chavin culture integrated art, architecture, and cosmology into a single, cohesive, and incredibly powerful system. Each head is a window into the Chavin mind, a glimpse of a world where humans, animals, and gods were not separate entities, but fluid states of being. The one head that remains in its original place, the sole survivor of its kind, continues to watch over the ruins, a lonely guardian of forgotten rituals and lost knowledge. It invites us to look closer, to question what we see, and to imagine the vibrant, terrifying, and all-inspiring world from which it came. As we conclude our exploration of these magnificent guardians, we are left with a deeper appreciation for the complex spiritual landscape of Chavin. The Tenon heads were not just decorations. They were active participants in the life of the temple. They were teachers, protectors, and terrifying visions made manifest in stone. Thank you so much for joining me on this deep dive into the world of the Tenon heads. I hope it's given you a new perspective on these incredible artifacts. If you found this journey fascinating, please hit that like button and subscribe for more chapters from the ancient world. And don't forget to ring the notification bell so you won't miss our next adventure. Let me know in the comments which Tenon head you find the most intriguing. Until next time, keep questioning and keep exploring. Welcome back to our journey into the heart of ancient mysteries. Today, in Chapter 9, we're exploring the sound of the temple. We're heading deep into the Andes Mountains of Peru, to a site that is over 3,000 years old. Chavín de Huántar. This isn't just a ruin of stone and mortar. It was a marvel of ancient engineering, designed not just for sight, but for sound. Imagine this. You're an ancient pilgrim, having traveled for weeks to reach this sacred place. As you approach, you don't just see the temple, you hear it. A deep, rumbling roar echoes from the stone, a sound that seems to shake the very ground beneath your feet. It's a sound you can feel in your chest, a sound that inspires both awe and fear. This wasn't magic. It was genius. The Chavin people were masters of acoustics, and they built their temple to be a giant, living instrument. So how did they do it? The secret lies beneath the temple floor. The architects constructed an incredibly complex network of underground canals and aqueducts. Water from a nearby river was carefully diverted into these channels. But these weren't just for drainage or irrigation. They were designed with specific shapes, sizes, and drops to manipulate the flow of water. As water rushed through these narrow passages, it would build up pressure and then release, creating a powerful, low-frequency roar. The sound would travel up through strategically placed ventilation shafts and resonate throughout the entire temple complex. It would sound as if the mountain itself was speaking, or perhaps growling. This brings us to the spiritual purpose of these sounds. The Chavin people worshipped powerful deities, chief among them a fanged jaguar god. This deity represented the forces of nature, the power of the underworld, and the spirit world. The roar emanating from the temple wasn't just a random noise. It was the voice of their god. Priests, hidden from view within the labyrinthine corridors of the temple, would use this sound to create a powerful, immersive spiritual experience. But the water channels were only part of the orchestra. The priests had another instrument, the strombus shell, or conch shell. Archaeologists have found dozens of these large, beautifully carved shells at Chavin. They weren't just decorations. When blown, these conch shells produce a haunting, trumpet-like blast. Now, picture this. You're inside one of the temple's dark winding galleries. The low rumble of the water channels is all around you. Suddenly, the piercing cry of a conch shell cuts through the darkness, echoing off the polished stone walls. The sound would seem to come from everywhere at once, disorienting and overwhelming your senses. The priests were, in effect, sound engineers. They understood how sound waves travel and reflect. The galleries at Chavin are built with niches, sharp turns, and varying ceiling heights, all designed to manipulate sound. A sound made in one chamber could be projected into another, making it seem as if a disembodied voice was speaking from the stone itself. For a pilgrim, already in a heightened state of mind, maybe even under the influence of psychoactive plants like the San Pedro cactus, this experience would have been absolutely profound. It wasn't just a ritual. It was a sensory overload designed to break down the barriers between the physical and the spiritual worlds. You wouldn't just believe in the presence of the jaguar god. You would hear it, feel it, and experience it with every fiber of your being. Now, you might be thinking, this all sounds incredible, but how can we be sure? This is where modern science meets ancient mystery. Archaeologists and acousticians have been working together at Chavin to recreate these very sounds. One of the most fascinating experiments involves a team from Stanford University. They used 3D imaging to map the entire network of canals and galleries. With this data, they created computer models to simulate how sound would have behaved within the temple. Their models confirmed that the structure was perfectly designed to amplify low-frequency sounds and create complex echoes. But they didn't stop at digital simulations. Researchers went a step further. They brought exact replicas of the strombus conch shells back to Chavin. Standing in the same chambers where priests stood 3 millennia ago, they blew the shells. The results were astonishing. The sounds they recorded matched the acoustic predictions perfectly. The blasts echoed through the passageways, creating a disorienting and powerful effect. They even managed to get some of the original water channels flowing again. And sure enough, the temple began to produce its signature low-frequency rumble. These experiments have given us an unprecedented glimpse into the sensory world of the Chavin people. It shows that their priests weren't just spiritual leaders. They were masters of psychoactive. They understood, on an intuitive and practical level, how to use sound to influence human emotion and perception. They created an environment that was designed to be transformative, to simulate a divine encounter, and to reinforce the power of their religion and their gods. The temple wasn't just a place of worship. It was an interactive machine for spiritual experience. The legacy of Chavinese acoustic engineering is a powerful reminder that ancient civilizations possessed a sophistication that we are only now beginning to fully appreciate. They built more than just structures. They built experiences. The sound of the temple is a testament to their genius, a roar that has been silent for centuries but is now, thanks to modern science, being heard once again. Thank you so much for joining me on this deep dive into the sounds of Chavín de Huántar. It's truly incredible what ancient people were able to achieve. If you found this as fascinating as I did, please hit that like button and subscribe for more chapters of our exploration into the ancient world. Let me know in the comments, what do you think about this ancient sound technology? Until next time, keep exploring. Welcome back to our journey through the mysteries of the past. Today, in Chapter 10, we're stepping into the sacred heart of ancient rituals, where the elements themselves were partners in ceremony. We'll explore the profound connection between rituals, water, and light, uncovering how these forces were harnessed to create moments of spiritual power and deep meaning. Imagine a world not just built of stone, but woven from the very fabric of nature. This wasn't just architecture. It was a living, breathing testament to a people who understood the cosmos in a way we are only just beginning to rediscover. Let's delve into this world, where every drop of water and every ray of sunlight told a story. At the core of these ancient ceremonies was water, the universal symbol of life and purification. But here, it wasn't just a symbol. It was an active participant. Picture this: intricate channels, carved with painstaking precision into the very stone of the sacred sites. These weren't simply for drainage or irrigation. They were sacred veins, designed to guide water on a specific journey. As the water flowed, it would weave through plazas, cascade down tiered platforms, and pool in ceremonial basins. This movement was a performance, a physical manifestation of a spiritual process. Priests and participants would watch as the water cleansed the stone, its gentle murmur a constant prayer in the background of their rituals. The journey of the water mirrored the spiritual journey of the individual, from impurity to clarity, from stillness to life. The act of interacting with this flowing water, whether by touch or simply by presence, was a form of baptism, a way to wash away the mundane and prepare the soul for connection with the divine. It symbolized a cyclical renewal, echoing the rain that fed the earth and the rivers that sustained their civilization. Now, let's turn our eyes to the sky. As crucial as water was, its celestial counterpart, light, played an equally dramatic role. The architects of these sites were also brilliant astronomers. They built not just with stone, but with the sun itself. Imagine standing in a darkened chamber, the air thick with anticipation. Suddenly, on a specific day of the year perhaps, the solstice or equinox, a single, brilliant beam of sunlight pierces the gloom. It travels across the floor, illuminating a specific altar, a carved symbol, or the face of a priest. This wasn't accidental. The openings in the walls and ceilings were positioned with incredible accuracy, turning the entire structure into a massive celestial clock. These moments of light were divine revelations, a sign that the heavens were aligned with the earthly rituals. The sunlight's entry marked sacred time, signaling the start of a festival, the right moment for a sacrifice, or the beginning of a new agricultural cycle. It was a tangible connection between the earthly realm and the cosmic order, a powerful affirmation that their world was in harmony with the universe. These events would have been awe-inspiring, reinforcing the power of the priesthood and the belief system that united the community. The genius of these ancient spiritual practices lay in their understanding of balance. It wasn't just about water or light in isolation. It was about the symphony they created with other natural elements. Water and fire, the opposing forces of quenching and consuming, were often used together in rituals. A sacred flame might be placed beside a ceremonial pool, its light dancing on the water's surface, representing the duality of existence, creation and destruction, darkness and light. The stone of the temples themselves represented stability and permanence, the unyielding earth. Yet, this solid foundation was constantly caressed by the wind, the invisible element of air and breath, which carried chants and the scent of incense through the sacred spaces. This interplay of water, fire, stone, and wind created a holistic spiritual environment. It was a microcosm of the entire world, brought into a single, focused space. The people didn't just observe nature, they invited it into their most sacred moments, believing that true spiritual power came from aligning oneself with the fundamental forces of the universe. They understood that to be close to the divine, one had to be in harmony with the world itself. Let's visualize a complete ritual. It begins at dawn. The community gathers as the first rays of light, guided by architectural precision, strike a central monolith. This is the signal. Water, released from a high reservoir, begins its serpentine journey through the stone channels, its sound a rising hum that fills the ceremonial plaza. Priests, adorned in ritual attire, light sacred fires in designated pits, the smoke coiling towards the heavens, carrying their prayers. The people, standing between the flowing water and the burning fire, on the solid stone ground with the wind on their faces, are literally standing at the confluence of the elements. Every sense is engaged. They feel the cool mist from the water, the warmth of the flame. They hear the chanting voices carried on the wind, and they see the dramatic play of light and shadow. This wasn't a passive observance. It was a fully immersive, multi-sensory experience designed to elevate the consciousness of every single person present. The ritual wasn't just something they watched, it was something they lived, a powerful act of communal participation in the cosmic dance. Reflecting on these practices offers us a profound lesson. In our modern world, we often see ourselves as separate from nature, seeking to control or tame it. But these ancient cultures saw themselves as part of it. Their spirituality was not confined to texts or temples, but was written in the language of sunlight, flowing water, and living stone. They built their connection to the divine by observing and honoring the natural world, recognizing the sacred in the elements we often take for granted. This chapter on rituals, water, and light reminds us that the most powerful spiritual experiences are often born from a simple, yet deep, harmony with the world around us. It challenges us to look at our own environment not just as a resource, but as a potential source of wonder, connection, and meaning. The secrets of these ancient rituals are not just about the past. They are timeless insights into the human need for balance and our enduring quest to find our place within the cosmos. Thank you for joining me on this exploration into the heart of ancient ceremony. The wisdom embedded in these stones and streams continues to ripple through time, inviting us to listen and to learn. If you found this journey as fascinating as I did, please like this video and subscribe to the channel for more chapters of our unfolding story. Don't forget to hit the notification bell so you won't miss our next adventure. See you next time. Have you ever heard of a civilization that thrived for nearly 1,000 years, not through war and conquest, but through art, faith, and trade? A society nestled high in the Andes Mountains of modern Peru, whose influence stretched from the sun-drenched coast to the dense Amazon jungle. Today, we journey back in time, over 3,000 years ago, to uncover the secrets of one of South America's most enigmatic and foundational cultures. The people of Chavin. Welcome, history lovers and curious minds, to our deep dive into the world of the Chavin civilization. This isn't just a story of ancient ruins. It's a story of human ingenuity, spiritual devotion, and the creation of a cultural legacy that would echo through the Andes for centuries to come. What made them so special? How did they manage to unite such a diverse and challenging landscape without a powerful army or a vast empire? The answers lie not in grand palaces, but in the subtle details of their daily lives, the intricate patterns of their art, and the spiritual power of their sacred sites. So, grab your virtual explorer's hat, because we're about to explore the heart of the Chavin world, starting with their most sacred center, Chavín de Huántar. Imagine a valley, tucked away at over 10,000 feet in the Andes, where two rivers meet. It's here, in this strategically and spiritually significant location, that the Chavin built their magnum opus. Chavín de Huántar wasn't a city in the way we think of one today, with bustling streets and marketplaces. It was a ceremonial and pilgrimage center, a place where people from all over the region would travel to connect with the divine. The main structure, often called the Castillo or Old Temple, is a marvel of ancient engineering. It's a massive U-shaped stone platform, built with incredible precision. But the real magic is hidden inside. The temple is a labyrinth of narrow, dark passageways, ventilated by a complex system of air ducts that have baffled engineers for years. These tunnels lead to hidden chambers, and at the very heart of this maze, in a cruciform gallery, stands one of the most iconic and terrifying deities of the ancient Americas, the Lanzón. This magnificent carved stone monolith is over 15 feet tall, depicting a supernatural being with a human body, but with fangs, claws, and hair made of writhing snakes. It's a powerful, awe-inspiring figure, designed to be seen only by the initiated. Deep within the bowels of the temple, likely under the disorienting effects of ritual substances, the acoustics in this chamber are also extraordinary. A voice speaking near the Lanzón would have echoed through the tunnels, sounding like the very voice of the god itself. This was religious theater on a grand scale, orchestrated by a powerful class of priests. So, who were these spiritual elites? The Chavin society is considered a theocracy. This means it was ruled not by kings or generals, but by priests who were seen as intermediaries between the physical and spiritual worlds. Their power came from their knowledge of the cosmos, their ability to predict celestial events, and their control over sacred rituals. They were shamans, astronomers, and community leaders all rolled into one. Through the awe-inspiring architecture of Chavín de Huántar and the powerful imagery of their art, they created a belief system that captivated people from hundreds of miles away. People didn't come to Chavín de Huántar because they were forced to. They came because they believed. They came seeking wisdom, blessings, and a connection to the powerful deities that governed their world. This shared faith was the glue that held the Chavín sphere of influence together, a testament to the power of ideas over armies. But life wasn't all about grand rituals and terrifying gods. For the vast majority of people in the Chavín world, daily life was a rhythm of hard work, close community ties, and a deep connection to the land. Let's step away from the temple and into the fields. The Andean environment is tough. It's steep, the weather is unpredictable, and the soil can be thin. The Chavín people were master farmers who adapted brilliantly to this challenge. Their secret weapon: terraced farming. By cutting step-like platforms, or terraces, into the mountainsides, they created flat, manageable plots of land. This ingenious technique prevented soil erosion, maximized water usage, and allowed them to cultivate a variety of crops at different altitudes. What were they growing? The staples of the Andean diet. Potatoes, of course, in hundreds of different varieties, each adapted to a specific maize or corn, which was not only a food source, but also likely used to make a fermented ceremonial beverage, and quinoa, the superfood we know and love today, which provided essential protein. This agricultural success was the foundation of their society. It ensured a stable food supply, supported a growing population, and freed up labor for other specialized tasks, like building temples and creating a stunning array of crafts. The everyday farmer, working the terraces with simple tools, was just as crucial to the success of the Chavín civilization as the priest chanting in the temple. The Chavín world was a surprisingly interconnected one. Despite the rugged terrain of the Andes, they established and maintained extensive trade networks that acted like the civilization's veins and arteries. These routes connected three distinct ecological zones: the dry Pacific coast, the high mountain valleys, and the lush Amazon jungle. This wasn't just casual trade. It was a highly organized system that brought a wealth of exotic goods and new ideas to the ceremonial center of Chavín de Huántar. From the coast, they imported prized spondylus shells, a spiny oyster with a bright red or orange color that was considered sacred, more valuable than gold. From the Amazon basin to the east came exotic bird feathers, jaguar pelts, and powerful hallucinogenic plants like the San Pedro cactus, which were central to their religious rituals. In return, the highland communities traded their agricultural surplus, high-quality textiles, and, most importantly, their religious ideology and distinctive art style. These trade routes were not just for goods. They were conduits for culture. Priests, pilgrims, and artisans traveled these paths, spreading the Chavín art style and belief system far and wide. You can see this in the archaeology. Chavín-style pottery and iconography start appearing in distant coastal and highland sites, showing just how influential this culture became. This network of exchange created a shared cultural identity across a vast and diverse region, a peaceful unification through trade and faith. Now, let's talk about their craftsmanship, because the Chavín were truly master artisans. When we look at the objects they left behind, we get a direct window into their world, their skills, and their beliefs. Their pottery is a great example. It's typically very fine, highly polished, and monochrome, usually black, gray, or brown. The shapes are often unique, like the stirrup spout bottle, which has a handle that doubles as a pouring spout. But the most incredible part is the decoration. They would incise or carve intricate designs onto the surface, depicting the same supernatural beings we see in their stone carvings: fanged deities, raptorial birds, and snarling felines, all blended together in complex, abstract patterns. It was art that was both beautiful and spiritually potent. Then there are their textiles. Although few have survived the thousands of years in the damp mountain climate, the fragments we do have are breathtaking. The Chavín were skilled weavers and were among the first in the Andes to use advanced techniques. They would paint designs directly onto plain woven cotton fabric, creating large, colorful tapestries that likely adorned the walls of their temples. These painted textiles depicted their complex cosmology and would have added to the sensory overload of the ritual experience. Imagine standing in a dark passageway, hearing the priest's voice echo, smelling incense, and seeing these huge, terrifying images of their gods illuminated by torchlight. It would have been an unforgettable and deeply transformative experience. The evidence from their tools, pottery, and textiles all points to a society with a high degree of specialization. Not everyone was a farmer. There were skilled stonemasons who built the temples, potters who perfected their craft, and weavers who created magnificent works of art. This level of craftsmanship, combined with the lack of fortifications and weapons in the archaeological record, paints a picture of a remarkably peaceful society. For centuries, the people of the Chavin world lived in a state of coexistence, united not by force, but by a shared cultural and spiritual system. Their power was soft power, the power of attraction and influence. So, what happened to the Chavin? Around 500 to 400 BCE, the influence of Chavín de Huántar began to wane. The ceremonial center was eventually abandoned. The exact reasons aren't clear, but it was likely a combination of factors. Perhaps there were environmental changes, like a prolonged drought or a series of earthquakes that undermined the priest's authority. If the gods seemed to have abandoned the people, the rituals would lose their power. It's also possible that new, more localized religious centers and political leaders began to emerge, decentralizing power and making the long pilgrimage to Chavín de Huántar less relevant. But the legacy of Chavin did not disappear. It was a mother culture, a foundational civilization, whose art, technology, and religious ideas were absorbed by the many cultures that followed in the Andes. You can see Chavin DNA in the art of the Paracas and Nazca cultures. On the coast, and in the later highland empires like the Wari and even the Inca, they laid the groundwork for complex Andean civilization. The concept of a spiritual center connecting diverse peoples, the iconography of powerful animal deities, and the mastery of a challenging environment. All of these were Chavin innovations that would resonate for the next 2,000 years. The story of Chavin teaches us that there are many ways to build a civilization. It doesn't always take swords and soldiers. Sometimes it takes a powerful idea, a shared vision of the cosmos, and the creative spirit to express it in stone, clay, and thread. They created a world united by belief, a testament to the enduring power of faith and art. Thank you so much for joining me on this journey into the ancient Andes. I hope you found the world of the Chavin as fascinating as I do. If you enjoyed this video, please hit that like button, and be sure to subscribe for more deep dives into the forgotten corners of history. Let me know in the comments which ancient civilization you'd like to explore next. Thanks for watching, and we'll see you in the next one. Welcome back to our journey through ancient cultures. Today, in Chapter 12, we're delving into a fascinating and deeply spiritual aspect of history: the ceremonial use of the San Pedro cactus. This isn't just a plant. For many ancient peoples, it was a sacred key, a bridge to the divine world. We'll explore this topic with the respect and sensitivity it deserves, focusing on its cultural meaning rather than sensationalism. For thousands of years, in the Andes and coastal regions of South America, the San Pedro cactus, known locally as huachuma, has been a central part of spiritual life. Imagine a time long before our modern world, where the mysteries of the universe were explored not through telescopes, but through inner journeys. Priests and spiritual leaders would prepare and consume a brew made from this cactus in highly structured rituals. These weren't parties. They were solemn, purposeful ceremonies, often held under the moonlit sky or within sacred enclosures. The goal was profound: to communicate with the gods, to receive guidance, and to heal the community. The visions experienced during these ceremonies were believed to be direct messages from divine beings. Participants felt they could transcend the physical world and enter a spiritual reality. Priests, or shamans, would seek answers to pressing questions. When should we plant the crops? How can we cure this illness? What do the gods ask of us? The cactus was a conduit, a sacred teacher that opened a channel for this divine dialogue. It was thought to cleanse the body and soul, allowing the individual to see themselves and the world with a clarity that was otherwise unattainable. This connection wasn't just about receiving information. It was about fostering a relationship with the powerful forces that governed their lives. So, how do we know all this? A huge part of our understanding comes from the incredible art these cultures left behind. If you look closely at ancient pottery, textiles, and stone carvings, you'll see recurring themes that point directly to these ceremonies. We find detailed depictions of the San Pedro cactus itself, often shown with its characteristic star-shaped cross-section. But the art goes deeper than just showing the plant. It illustrates the very experience of the spiritual journey. One of the most compelling pieces of evidence is the iconography of transformation. We see figures that are part human, part animal. A priest might be shown with feline fangs and claws, or with the wings of a great bird. These aren't meant to be literal monsters. Instead, they represent the shaman's journey into a trance state. Under the influence of San Pedro, it was believed the priest could take on the powers and perspectives of powerful animals like the jaguar or the eagle. They could see in the dark, fly over the landscape, and connect with the spirit world in ways a normal human could not. These hybrid figures are a visual language, telling the story of a soul's flight and its return with newfound wisdom. The settings in this art are also revealing. We often see figures holding the cactus, surrounded by supernatural beings, stars, and swirling, geometric patterns. These patterns aren't just for decoration. Many scholars believe they are attempts to represent the complex visual phenomena experienced during the trance. The art becomes a map of the visionary world, a guide for others, and a testament to the power of the experience. It shows us that these ceremonies were a cornerstone of their society, influencing art, religion, and social structure. It's also important to understand the role of the priest or shaman in guiding these experiences. They weren't just participating, they were masters of the ceremony. They knew the proper dosage, the sacred songs, or ikaros to sing, and the rituals needed to protect the participants and guide them through their inner landscapes. Their role was to maintain a safe and sacred space, helping people navigate the often intense and overwhelming visions to find healing and insight. The ceremony was a structured, guided journey, not a chaotic one, and the shaman's expertise was crucial for a successful outcome. The symbolism extends beyond just transformation. We see images of decapitation, which, while jarring to us, held a very different meaning. In this context, it often symbolized a spiritual rebirth, or the separation of the soul from the body to travel to other realms. It was a metaphor for shedding one's old self and emerging enlightened. Similarly, streams of mucus depicted flowing from the noses of figures are thought to be a side effect of consuming the San Pedro brew, and its inclusion in the art authenticates the scene, marking it as a genuine depiction of a ritual experience. By studying these ancient practices through the lens of their art and artifacts, we gain a much deeper appreciation for the worldviews of these cultures. The San Pedro cactus wasn't used for recreation. It was a sacrament, an integral tool for understanding the cosmos and one's place within it. It was about healing, community, and maintaining a delicate balance between the human, natural, and spiritual worlds. These gentle explorations remind us that, throughout history, humanity has always sought connection to something greater than itself, using the unique tools and knowledge available to them. Thank you so much for joining me on this deep dive into the world of ancient ceremonies. I hope it's given you a new perspective on the rich, spiritual traditions of the past. If you found this interesting, please like, subscribe, and hit the notification bell so you don't miss our next chapter. See you next time. Ever wonder what it would be like to see through the eyes of an eagle, or feel the power of a jaguar coursing through your veins? For the ancient Chavin people of the Andes, this wasn't just a fantasy. It was the very core of their spiritual world. Welcome to our deep dive into the religion and transformation beliefs of the Chavin civilization. Today, we're exploring Chapter 13 of our series, and we're tackling a fascinating concept: the spiritual theme of becoming one with divine animals. This wasn't just about admiring animals from afar. The Chavin believed in a profound, mystical union, a transformation where the boundaries between human and beast would dissolve. At the heart of this belief system is a powerful idea known as Kemet. Imagine a life force, an invisible energy that flows through every single thing in the universe, every rock, every river, every plant, every animal, and every person. This was command. It was the animating spirit of the cosmos, connecting all beings in a single, vibrant web of existence. The Chavin believed that this force could be channeled, manipulated, and shared. So, how did this connect to their animal deities? The Chavin revered certain creatures for their unique abilities. The harpy eagle, with its incredible vision and mastery of the sky. The jaguar, a symbol of stealth, power, and dominance in the jungle. And the anaconda, the master of the underworld and the watery depths. These weren't just animals. They were living embodiments of specific cosmic powers. They were conduits of kami. The ultimate spiritual goal for a Chavin shaman or priest was to tap into this power. They believed that true spiritual strength, insight, and the ability to mediate between the physical and supernatural worlds came from merging their own human essence with the essence of these powerful animals. This wasn't a metaphorical idea. It was a literal, experiential transformation. Through complex rituals, which likely involved chanting, dancing, and the use of psychoactive plants like the San Pedro cactus, shamans would embark on spiritual journeys. Their goal was to shed their human form and take on the attributes of their chosen animal deity. In their altered state of consciousness, they would feel their senses heightened to that of a jaguar, their perspective shift to the soaring viewpoint of an eagle. They became the animal. This transformation is vividly captured in their art. If you look at Chavin carvings and pottery, you'll see incredible hybrid figures. Human bodies, with jaguar fangs and claws, faces that morph into snarling cats, with serpents for hair. These aren't just monstrous creatures. They are depictions of the shaman's spiritual journey. They are portraits of transformation in progress, a visual testament to the merging of human and animal essence. The famous Lanzón monolith, a towering granite stela at the heart of the Chavín de Huántar temple, shows a deity with both human and feline features, a supreme being embodying this very principle of cosmic unity. This belief had profound implications for their society. The shamans, who could successfully undergo this transformation, were seen as incredibly powerful. They could diagnose illnesses, predict the future, ensure successful harvests, and communicate with the gods. They were the bridge between the everyday world and the sacred, spiritual realm. Their ability to become one with divine animals gave them the authority and wisdom to guide their community. The entire architectural layout of their main ceremonial center, Chavín de Huántar, wheat eats, dark, labyrinthine galleries, was designed to facilitate these transformative experiences, creating a sensory environment that would help the shaman leave their physical body behind. So the next time you see a depiction of a half-human, half-jaguar figure from ancient Peru, remember it's more than just art. It's a window into a world view where the lines between species were fluid, where a universal life force connected everything, and where true power was found in the profound mystical act of becoming one with the divine animals of the sky, the earth, and the water. It was a world of spectacular, spiritual transformation. Thanks for joining us on this journey into the Chavin mind. If you found this exploration fascinating, make sure to like, subscribe, and hit that notification bell so you don't miss our next chapter. We'd love to hear your thoughts in the comments below. Until next time, keep exploring. Welcome back to our series on ancient civilizations. Today, we're diving into Chapter 14, The Spread of Chavin Influence. We're going to explore a fascinating question. How did a single highland temple complex in ancient Peru manage to influence cultures hundreds of miles away? This isn't a story of conquest or empire in the way we usually think of it. It's something much more subtle and, frankly, more intriguing. It's a story of ideas, art, and beliefs, traveling across vast and difficult terrains, connecting diverse groups of people in a shared cultural and religious experience. So, let's journey back in time to the Andes Mountains and unravel the mystery of how Chavín de Huántar became the heart of a cultural phenomenon that shaped a huge part of the ancient Andean world. To understand the spread of Chavin, we first need to remember what Chavín de Huántar was. It wasn't a sprawling city or the capital of a military empire. It was a major religious and ceremonial center, nestled high in the Andes at the confluence of two rivers. Pilgrims would travel from all over, from the coast to the jungle, to visit this sacred place. They came to participate in rituals, to consult the oracle, and to witness the powerful art and architecture that defined the site. The priests of Chavin were masters of spectacle. They used architecture, sound, and probably psychotropic substances to create transformative religious experiences for these visitors. Imagine you're a pilgrim who has traveled for weeks to reach this sacred site. You enter the labyrinthine passageways of the temple, the air thick with incense, the sound of water rushing through hidden canals echoing around you. In the dark, you come face to face with the Lanzón, a towering stone monolith carved with the image of a fanged, supernatural being. This experience would have been profound. And when you return to your home village, you wouldn't just bring back stories. You'd bring back a new way of seeing the world. This is the key to understanding Chavin's influence. It spread not through force, but through pilgrimage and the exchange of ideas. The pilgrims who came to Chavín de Huántar were deeply impressed by what they saw. They were exposed to a complex and powerful cosmology, represented by a very distinct artistic style. We call this the Chavin style, and it's characterized by its intricate designs, supernatural figures, and recurring motifs like fanged jaguar-like mouths, raptorial birds, and writhing snakes. These weren't just decorative patterns. They were a visual language that communicated core religious concepts. When these pilgrims returned to their communities, they became agents of cultural transmission. They carried the memory of the Chavin deities and the artistic style used to represent them. Local artisans and leaders, inspired by these new, powerful ideas, began to incorporate Chavin elements into their own local traditions. This is why we start to see Chavin-style iconography popping up in places hundreds of miles away from the original temple complex. It's a testament to the power of a compelling belief system. Let's talk about the evidence. How do we know this influence was so widespread? The most compelling evidence comes from ceramics. Archaeologists have found pottery with distinct Chavin features in coastal valleys, in highland basins, and even on the eastern slopes of the Andes. We see the classic stirrup-spout bottle, a vessel shape strongly associated with Chavin. But more importantly, we see the iconography. The same fanged deities and composite creatures carved into the stone monuments at Chavín de Huántar appear painted or incised onto pottery made in distant villages. These weren't cheap imitations. Local pots were skillfully adapting Chavini motifs, sometimes blending them with their own regional styles, creating a fascinating cultural hybrid. This wasn't just about making fancy pots. These ceramics were likely used in local rituals, bringing a piece of the Chavin religious experience into communities far from the main temple. Owning and using a vessel with Chavin iconography was a way to connect to that larger sacred world, to demonstrate one's social standing and religious sophistication. It was a status symbol, but one deeply tied to spiritual power and knowledge. But the influence wasn't limited to pottery. We also see it in architecture. In various locations across Peru, local elites began building their own small-scale ceremonial centers that mimicked features of Chavín de Huántar. They constructed U-shaped platforms, sunken circular plazas, and other architectural elements that were hallmarks of the main temple. This suggests that it wasn't just the art that was spreading, but the entire ritual framework. Local leaders were essentially creating their own franchises of the Chavin religion, using architecture to stage similar ceremonies and replicate the religious authority of the main center. By building these structures, they were aligning themselves with the power and prestige of Chavin. Other portable objects also carried the Chavin message. We find finely woven textiles, carved bone and shell objects, and even goldwork decorated with Chavin motifs. These luxury goods would have been exchanged between elites across different regions, further cementing a shared cultural and religious identity among the ruling class. A chief on the coast might wear a golden pectoral adorned with a fanged deity, a design originating from the highlands. This shared artistic language created a network of elites who, despite speaking different languages and living in different environments, participated in a common system of beliefs and symbols. So, what was the big idea that made Chavin so appealing? At its core, Chavin religion seems to have been about mediating between different worlds: the sky, the earth, and the underworld, the coast, the highlands, and the jungle. The powerful supernatural beings depicted in Chavin art are often composite creatures, blending features of jaguars, eagles, and Cayman's animals from the jungle, mountains, and rivers. These figures represented the shamanic power to traverse different cosmic realms and control the natural forces that were so crucial for agricultural societies, like rain and fertility. The priests at Chavín de Huántar positioned themselves as the masters of this sacred knowledge. They were the intermediaries who could communicate with these powerful deities. By adopting Chavinese art and rituals, local leaders in other regions were tapping into this perceived power. They were claiming a connection to the very center of the cosmos, enhancing their own authority and legitimacy in the eyes of their people. It was a brilliant strategy for consolidating power without ever firing an arrow. This entire phenomenon is what archaeologists call a religious horizon. A horizon is a period when a particular art style and its associated ideology spread rapidly over a wide area, unifying diverse cultures. The Chavin horizon, which lasted from roughly 900 to 200 BCE, was the first great unifying period in Andean history. It laid the foundation for future civilizations by creating a shared cultural and religious framework that connected disparate communities. It created a common language of power, a shared understanding of the cosmos, and networks of exchange that would persist for centuries. It's truly remarkable when you think about it. A single highland temple, through the power of its art and its religious message, managed to inspire and connect people across one of the world's most challenging landscapes. The spread of Chavin influence wasn't an act of domination, but an act of inspiration. It shows us that ideas, when powerful enough, can travel farther and last longer than any army. The legacy of Chavin wasn't an empire of territory, but an empire of the mind. Thanks for joining us for this exploration of the Chavin phenomenon. It's a powerful reminder that history is shaped by more than just kings and battles. It's also shaped by artists, priests, and pilgrims. If you enjoyed this video, please give it a like and subscribe to the channel for more deep dives into the ancient world. Let us know in the comments what you find most fascinating about the spread of Chavin culture. See you next time. Every great story has an ending, and for the civilization we've been exploring, that ending began around 200 BCE. This wasn't a sudden, cataclysmic event, but a slow, creeping decline, a whisper that turned into a deafening silence. What caused this vibrant society to wither away? The truth is likely a complex tapestry woven from many threads. Imagine the world they knew beginning to turn against them. Environmental changes, perhaps subtle at first, would have had a profound impact. A shift in rainfall patterns could have led to prolonged droughts, making agriculture the very bedrock of their existence, a desperate gamble. The once reliable rivers that nourished their fields might have dwindled to mere trickles, leaving behind cracked, barren earth. Without a steady food supply, the foundations of their society would start to crumble. Famine wasn't just a threat, it became a recurring nightmare, weakening the people and sowing seeds of desperation. Alternatively, the very mountains that protected them could have become their undoing. This is a region known for its geological instability. A series of powerful earthquakes could have triggered devastating landslides. Picture entire hillsides collapsing, burying farmlands, diverting rivers, and wiping out villages in an instant. The grand stone aqueducts and irrigation channels, masterpieces of their engineering, could have been shattered beyond repair. The very pathways connecting the city to the outside world, the arteries of trade and communication, might have been severed, isolating them completely. Faced with such relentless destruction from nature itself, maintaining a complex urban society would have been an almost impossible task. But the reasons for their decline might not have been purely environmental. We must also consider the intricate dynamics of human society. Internal strife could have been a powerful catalyst for collapse. Perhaps a series of weak or corrupt rulers eroded public trust and failed to manage the growing crises. Civil unrest, driven by hunger and inequality, could have fractured the kingdom. Rival factions, noble houses, or even regional governors might have vied for power, splintering the once unified state into warring territories. This internal conflict would have drained resources, disrupted trade, and made any coordinated response to the environmental challenges. Then there's the possibility of external pressures. While they were relatively isolated, they were not entirely disconnected from the world. The rise of a more aggressive neighboring power could have shifted regional dynamics. New trade routes might have emerged, bypassing their kingdom entirely and strangling their economy. They might have been subjected to raids or even a full-scale invasion that they, weakened by internal problems, were unable to repel. The intricate network of alliances and trade that had sustained them for centuries could have unraveled, leaving them vulnerable and alone. It's also possible that a profound social or religious shift occurred. The belief system that had been the glue holding their society together might have lost its hold on the people. A new ideology or a crisis of faith, perhaps spurred by the relentless hardships, could have challenged the authority of the priests and the king. When people lose faith in the very institutions that define their world, the social order can collapse from within. The rituals and traditions that gave life meaning might have started to feel hollow and powerless against the tide of misfortune. Whatever the precise combination of factors, be it drought, landslide, civil war, or a crisis of faith of effect, was the same. The vibrant pulse of the city began to fade. The once bustling markets grew quieter. The workshops, once filled with the sounds of artisans, fell silent. One by one, families made the heartbreaking decision to leave, seeking survival elsewhere. It wasn't a mass exodus, but a slow, steady trickle of departures, like a leaking vessel slowly emptying itself. With the decline of the city, the pilgrimages that had been its lifeblood for generations began to wane. The long, winding paths leading to the great temple saw fewer and fewer travelers. The chants and prayers that once echoed through the valleys grew faint. The caravans laden with offerings became a rare sight. For the priests and acolytes who remained, this must have been a period of profound despair. They were the guardians of a sacred flame that was slowly being extinguished. Imagine the last ceremony held in the Grand Temple. The few remaining faithful gather in the vast, echoing hall, their voices barely filling the immense space. They perform the ancient rites, perhaps praying for a miracle, for a return to the Golden Age. But the gods remain silent. As the last embers of the sacred fire die out, an era comes to a close. The priests, the last keepers of the tradition, finally abandon the temple, their hearts heavy with the knowledge that a great chapter of history has ended. And so, silence descended upon the hallowed grounds. The grand halls, once alive with the energy of thousands, now stood empty. The only sound was the wind whispering through the stone corridors, a lonely lament for a lost civilization. The magnificent carvings and statues stood watch in the darkness, their stories now unheard, their purpose forgotten. The city became a ghost of its former self, a silent monument to a bygone era. Time, relentless and unforgiving, began its work of reclamation. The mountain rains, which had once been a source of life, now became an agent of burial. Year after year, century after century, soil and silt washed down from the slopes, slowly blanketing the abandoned structures. The meticulously crafted stone walls were covered in layers of earth. The grand plazas and courtyards disappeared beneath a tide of green. Vines, like thick green serpents, wrapped themselves around the towering pillars, their tendrils prying apart the ancient stonework. Trees took root in the cracks of the temple floors, their powerful roots shattering the carefully laid pavers. The once manicured gardens and terraces were consumed by the wild, untamed jungle. What was once a beacon of human achievement was being systematically erased from the landscape, swallowed by the very nature it had sought to master. The city and its temple were forgotten. Their name vanished from memory. Their stories faded from oral traditions. They became a lost legend, a rumor whispered by mountain folk of a mythical city of stone hidden deep within the jungle. For nearly 2,000 years, the ruins lay dormant, shrouded in mystery, buried under centuries of mountain rains and tangled vegetation, waiting patiently for the day they would be rediscovered and their incredible story could finally be told once more. This long, silent sleep was a crucial part of its journey, preserving it from the ravages of time until we, in the modern age, could uncover its secrets. Join us next time as we delve into the thrilling story of its rediscovery. Thanks for watching. Hey everyone, and welcome back to our deep dive into the incredible history of the Andes. Last time, we explored the enigmatic art and religious world of the Chavin civilization, a culture that dominated the Peruvian highlands for centuries. We saw their powerful deities, the intricate carvings, and the sheer mystery surrounding their beliefs. But then, as mysteriously as they appeared, they vanished from the historical record. For nearly 2,000 years, the magnificent stone temples of Chavín de Huántar lay buried, its legacy forgotten, swallowed by the earth and the relentless march of time. Imagine a civilization so influential, so powerful, just gone. Its stories became whispers, its gods faded into myth, and its people were lost to history. How does something so significant simply disappear? And more importantly, how was it found again? Today, in Chapter 16, we're stepping into the shoes of archaeologists and adventurers. This is the story of rediscovery, a tale of how a lost world was brought back into the light. Our journey begins in the early 20th century, while local communities knew of the ancient stones and strange carvings scattered around the valley. The true scale and importance of Chavín de Huántar were unknown to the wider world. It was a place of local legends, not a subject of scientific study. That all changed with the arrival of explorers and archaeologists who began to systematically excavate the site. It was like peeling back the layers of time, one shovel of dirt at a time. What they started to uncover was simply breathtaking. They found not just a few scattered ruins, but a massive, complex ceremonial center, intricate underground galleries, plazas that could hold thousands of people, and towering stone structures emerged from the soil. They unearthed the incredible carved monoliths we discussed before, like the Ramondi stele and the Tello obelisk, each one a masterpiece of ancient art and a window into a forgotten cosmology. Can you imagine the excitement? Every day brought a new discovery, a new piece of a puzzle that had been scattered for millennia. They weren't just digging up stones, they were resurrecting a civilization. The world was stunned. Here was evidence of a highly organized, artistically sophisticated, and deeply religious society that predated the famous Inca by over 1,000 years. It completely rewrote the known history of ancient Peru. And at the heart of this incredible story of rediscoveries, one man, Julio Centeo, often called the father of Peruvian archaeology. Tello was more than just a scientist. He was a passionate advocate for his country's indigenous heritage. He arrived at Chavín de Huántar in 1919, and what he saw there changed his life and the course of Andean Archaeology. Tello wasn't just interested in cataloging artifacts. He wanted to understand the very soul of the culture that created them. He spent years meticulously excavating the site, mapping its structures, and analyzing its iconography. He saw connections everywhere, linking the art of Chavín to symbols and myths found across the Andes. Based on his exhaustive research, Tello proposed a revolutionary idea. He argued that Chavín wasn't just another ancient culture. It was the cultura matriz, the mother culture of all later Andean civilizations. He believed that the religious ideas, artistic styles, and technological innovations born at Chavín de Huántar were the seeds from which other great cultures, like the Mocha, the Nazca, and even the Inca, grew. According to his theory, this wasn't just a regional power. It was the cradle of Andean civilization, the source from which everything else flowed. It was a bold, sweeping claim that placed Chavín at the very center of Peruvian prehistory. Tello's theory was powerful and influential, shaping the field for decades. He argued that the distinct iconography, the fanged jaguars, the soaring eagles, the slithering serpents, was a symbolic language that spread across ancient Peru, carried by pilgrims and missionaries from the great temple at Chavín. For Tello, Chavín was the Rome of the Andes, the central point of pilgrimage and cultural dissemination. While modern research has nuanced this view, showing that the story is a bit more complex with multiple centers of innovation, Tello's fundamental insight remains crucial. He was the first to recognize the immense Pan-Andean influence of Chavín, and to give it the prominence it deserved. His work didn't just put Chavín on the map, it created the very map itself. But the story of discovery doesn't end with Tello. The tools of archaeology have evolved in ways he could only dream of. Today, we're in a new golden age of Chavín research, driven by cutting-edge scientific methods. Take radiocarbon dating, for instance. By analyzing the carbon isotopes in organic materials like bone, wood, or even ancient textiles, we can now pinpoint the age of different parts of the site with incredible accuracy. This has allowed us to create a much more detailed timeline for Chavín's rise and fall. We now know the temple was built and expanded over many centuries, a process of constant renovation and reinvention. We can date different construction phases and link them to shifts in artistic style or religious practices. It's like having a calendar for the ancient world, and it gets even more futuristic. Scientists are now using technologies like 3D laser scanning and photogrammetry to create hyper-detailed digital models of the entire site, from the massive plazas to the tiniest inscriptions on a hidden carving. These digital replicas allow researchers to study the architecture and art in ways that were never before possible. They can spin a virtual model of the Lanzón monolith on their computer screen, examining every groove and line without ever touching the fragile stone. They can fly through a digital reconstruction of the underground galleries, testing theories about how light, sound, and even water might have been used in ancient rituals. This technology preserves the site for future generations and unlocks secrets hidden in plain sight. For example, 3D acoustic modeling has been used to study how sound would have traveled through the temple's labyrinthine passage. Researchers have found that the galleries were designed to create disorienting and powerful sound effects. The booming echoes of conch shell trumpets, known as put, would have reverberated through the stone corridors, creating an awe-inspiring, perhaps terrifying, experience. This wasn't just architecture. It was sensory engineering, designed to transport people to another state of consciousness. Furthermore, chemical analysis of soil samples and residues on pottery is revealing new details about the Chavin diet, the kinds of plants they used in rituals, and even the trade networks that brought exotic goods to the temple. We're learning about the hallucinogenic plants, like the San Pedro cactus, that were likely used by priests to commune with their gods. We're tracing the origins of obsidian tools back to volcanic sources hundreds of kilometers away, proving the vast reach of their influence. Every new test, every new scan, adds another vibrant brushstroke to our picture of this ancient world. What was once a lost civilization, then a theory proposed by a visionary archaeologist, is now coming into focus with stunning clarity. The stones of Chavín de Huántar are finally telling their full story, thanks to the marriage of old-fashioned digging and 21st century science. So, from the first tentative digs of the early 20th century to the laser scanners and mass spectrometers of today, the rediscovery of Chavin has been a continuous journey. It's a testament to human curiosity and our unending quest to understand our past. Julio Teller laid the foundation, and now, a new generation of archaeologists is building upon it, using tools he never could have imagined. The mother culture is still revealing her secrets, proving that even after 3,000 years, there are still new discoveries waiting to be made. Thanks so much for joining me on this leg of our journey. The story of Chavin is far from over, and in our next and final chapter, we'll discuss the legacy of this incredible civilization and its lasting impact on the Andean world. What did they leave behind, and why does it still matter today? Be sure to subscribe so you don't miss it. See you next time. Welcome back to our series on ancient mysteries. Today, we're diving deep into Chapter 17. Decoding the symbols. Have you ever looked at ancient carvings and wondered what they were trying to say? It is like trying to read a book in a language that has been lost for thousands of years. But for archaeologists and art historians, these symbols are a treasure trove of information, offering a direct glimpse into the minds of ancient peoples. Our focus today is on the Chavin culture, a civilization that flourished in the Andes Mountains of Peru long before the Inca. Their art is complex, mind-bending, and absolutely fascinating. So, how do we even begin to crack this code? Researchers don't just guess. They use a combination of methods. First, they look at the context. Where was the art found? Was it on a temple wall, a piece of pottery used in daily life, or a ceremonial object? The location gives us huge clues about its purpose. Second, they compare symbols across different sites and different times. If a certain image keeps appearing with other specific images, we can start to see patterns, like finding recurring words in a sentence. Third, they look at the natural world that Chavin people lived in. The animals and plants that were important to their survival often became powerful symbols in their art. And finally, they draw on knowledge of later Andean cultures, like the Mocha and the Inca, whose beliefs sometimes carried echoes of these much older traditions. It's a meticulous process, like assembling a giant, ancient puzzle. Let's talk about the big three in Chavin iconography: serpents, eagles, and felines. These weren't just random animals. They were powerful, multi-layered symbols. The serpent is one of the most common. Think about it. Snakes shed their skin, so they represent transformation, rebirth, and renewal. They slither on the ground and live near water sources, so they are deeply connected to the earth, to rivers, and to the underworld, or the realm beneath our feet. For an agricultural society in a challenging mountain environment, water was life, and the serpent was its powerful guardian and symbol. When you see a serpent in Chavin art, you're not just seeing a snake. You're seeing the concepts of change, fertility, and the mysterious forces of the subterranean world. Next up, the eagle, or more broadly, the raptor. These birds ruled the sky. They have incredible eyesight and can see the world from a perspective we humans can only dream of. So, naturally, they became symbols of vision, clarity, and celestial power. They represent the upper world, the realm of the gods, and the cosmos. An eagle symbol might have been used to invoke divine sight, to connect with the heavens, or to represent a shaman's ability to travel spiritually to other realms and gain knowledge. It's about power from above, foresight, and the ability to see the bigger picture, both literally and metaphorically. And that brings us to the mighty feline, most often a jaguar or a puma. These are the apex predators of the South American continent. They are strong, stealthy, and fearsome. In Chavin art, the feline is the ultimate symbol of earthly power, strength, and authority. It represents the terrestrial world, the here and now. Leaders and warriors would have associated themselves with the jaguar's power to show their own dominance and ferocity. Often, you'll see human figures with feline features, like fangs or claws. This is called a therianthrope, a blend of human and animal, suggesting a shaman or a ruler who has taken on the spirit and power of the jaguar. So when you see these three animals together, you're seeing a complete cosmology. The serpent for the underworld, the feline for the earthly world, and the eagle for the celestial world. It's a map of their entire universe carved in stone. This symbolic system is so consistent and complex that some scholars refer to it as the Chavin code. It's one of the earliest widespread symbolic languages in the Andes. This wasn't just decorative art. It was a way of communicating complex religious and philosophical ideas across a vast region. The art was a visual scripture, a way to teach, to remind, and to unify people under a shared set of beliefs. The images are often deliberately confusing and abstract, with heads turning into other heads, and patterns flowing into one another. This was likely intentional. The art was meant to be contemplated, to be experienced, perhaps even in altered states of consciousness, induced by ritual or psychotropic plants. The ambiguity forces the viewer to look closer, to get lost in the details, and in doing so, to experience the transformative power the symbols represent. It's a code that wasn't just meant to be read, but to be felt. The artists were masters of something called contour rivalry, where a single line can be part of two different images at the same time. You might be looking at a jaguar's mouth, but if you shift your focus, that same line becomes a serpent's body. This visual trickery reinforces the core idea of transformation and the interconnectedness of everything in their cosmos. Let's look at a famous example, the Lanzón stele. This is a massive, verandaf mittertal, granite sculpture hidden deep inside the old temple at Chavín de Huántar. It depicts a fearsome, anthropomorphic deity. The figure has a human body, but a snarling, fanged mouth and hair made of writhing snakes. One hand is pointing up to the heavens, and the other is pointing down to the underworld. It perfectly combines all the elements we've talked about. The feline fangs show its power in this world. The serpent hair connects it to the underworld and transformation. Its posture connects all three cosmic realms. This was the central axis of the Chavin universe, a god that mediated between the heavens, the earth, and the underworld. Pilgrims would travel for weeks to reach the temple, navigate its dark, labyrinthine corridors, and finally come face to face with this terrifying and awe-inspiring image, likely illuminated only by the flicker of a lamp. Imagine the psychological impact. The Chavin code wasn't just pictures on a wall. It was a technology for engineering a profound religious experience. It was a language designed to transform you. So, the next time you see a piece of ancient art, remember the Chavin. Remember that every line, every curve, and every snarling fang might be part of a complex and beautiful code, a message from the past waiting to be decoded. The serpents, eagles, and felines of Chavin are more than just animals. They are the keys to understanding the worldview of a lost civilization. They are the words, sentences, and paragraphs of an epic story written in stone. It's a story we're still learning to read, and with every symbol we decipher, we get a little closer to understanding our shared human history. Thanks so much for joining me on this journey into the Chavin code. If you found this fascinating, make sure to like this video and subscribe for more deep dives into the ancient world. Let me know in the comments which ancient symbol system you'd like us to explore next. See you in the next chapter. Welcome back to our journey through ancient Andean history. Today, we're wrapping up our exploration of the Chavin culture by looking at its incredible, long-lasting legacy. You might think that when a civilization declines, its ideas fade away, but that's far from the truth, especially with the Chavin. Their influence echoed through the Andes for centuries, shaping the very fabric of the cultures that followed. Let's dive into how the spirit of Chavin lived on. First, let's talk about the big names that came after Chavin: the Mocha, the Nazca, and even the mighty Inca Empire. These weren't just separate groups that popped up out of nowhere. They inherited a rich cultural and religious toolkit, and a lot of that came directly from Chavin. Think of Chavin as the cultural grandparent of the Andes. The Mocha, who rose to power on the northern coast of Peru hundreds of years after Chavin's decline, were master artists. If you look at their pottery and metalwork, what do you see? Powerful, fanged deities, figures that combine human and animal features, especially jaguars and birds of prey. Sound familiar? That is pure Chavin. DNA right there. The Mocha took these concepts and gave them their own unique spin, creating a vibrant mythology that was still deeply rooted in Chavin's spiritual world. Then you have the Nazca culture, famous for the enormous geoglyphs etched into the desert floor, the Nazca lines. While they're best known for these massive drawings, their textiles and ceramics are just as fascinating. And once again, we see those recurring motifs: the serpent, the big cat, and the raptor. These weren't just pretty pictures. They were powerful symbols representing different realms of the cosmos, underworld, the earth, and the heavens. The Nazca continued to use this symbolic language, showing just how deeply Chavin's cosmology had penetrated the Andean mindset. They might have expressed it differently, through giant lines in the sand instead of stone carvings, but the core ideas were the same. This brings us to one of the most powerful and enduring symbols from the Chavin culture: the feline, specifically the jaguar. In the Chavin worldview, the jaguar was the ultimate apex predator, a symbol of power, spirituality, and transformation. It was a shamanic animal, able to move between the physical and spiritual worlds. This reverence for the jaguar didn't disappear with Chavin. It became a permanent fixture in Andean religion. The Mocha depicted Ayapek, their creator god, with prominent jaguar fangs. In later cultures, feline imagery continued to represent divine authority and military might. Even the Inca, who built the largest empire in the Americas, incorporated these ideas. The Inca god of creation, Viracaca, was sometimes associated with these powerful animals, and the city of Cusco, the heart of their empire, was said to have been designed in the shape of a puma. This isn't a coincidence. It's a direct line of symbolic inheritance stretching back over 2,000 years to Chavín de Huántar. Alongside the jaguar, the serpent was another key player. For Chavin, serpents often represented the underworld, water, and fertility. They were creatures of the earth, connected to the cycles of life and death. This symbolism was also picked up and adapted by later cultures. You see serpents slithering across Mocha pottery, woven into Nazca textiles, and carved into Inca stonework. The anaconda and other snakes remained powerful symbols of the subterranean and aquatic realms. The combination of jaguar, serpent, and a bird of prey, often a condor or eagle, created a sacred trio representing the three levels of the cosmos. This trilogy is a fundamental concept in Andean thought, and its origins can be traced right back to the art of Chavin. But perhaps the most profound legacy of Chavin wasn't just its art or its gods, but its very concept of a sacred center. Chavín de Huántar wasn't just a city. It was a pilgrimage site, an oracle, a place where the human world connected with the divine. It was an axis mundi, a center of the universe. This idea that a temple could serve as a gateway between worlds became a blueprint for sacred architecture throughout the Andes. The Moshe built their massive pyramids of the sun and moon, which were not just administrative centers, but also stages for elaborate religious ceremonies. The Nazca had Coachi, a vast ceremonial center made of adobe pyramids. And, of course, there's the Inca. Their temples, like the Coricanchia in Cusco, the Temple de Sunwar, considered the holiest sites in the empire. These were places where the divine and earthly realms intersected, where priests communicated with the gods, and where the cosmic order was maintained. The Inca saw their capital, Cusco, as the navel of the world, a concept that is strikingly similar to how Chavín de Huántar was likely perceived a millennium and a half earlier. The tradition of building monumental temple complexes as focal points for religious and social life is one of Chavin's most significant and enduring contributions to Andean civilization. It established a pattern that would be repeated time and time again, right up to the Spanish conquest. So, when we look at the incredible achievements of the Moshe, the Nazca, or the Inca, we're also seeing the long shadow of their art, their religion, and their understanding of the cosmos provided a foundation that would be built upon for generations. The fanged gods, the powerful jaguars and serpents, and the idea of a sacred center where heaven and earth met. All of these powerful concepts began with the Chavin and became an integral part of what it meant to be an Andean civilization. The stones of Chavín de Huántar may be silent now, but their story is told in the art and architecture of every great culture that followed. It is a testament to the power of ideas to transcend time and shape the destiny of a continent. Thank you so much for joining me on this deep dive into the legacy of the Chavin. It's been an amazing journey exploring this foundational culture. If you enjoyed the series, please hit that like button, subscribe for more adventures into ancient history, and share your thoughts in the comments below. See you next time. Welcome back to our journey through the heart of the Andes. Today, we arrive at a place where time seems to stand still, where the echoes of the past resonate with a profound and sacred stillness. This is not just a ruin. For many, it remains hallowed ground, a living sanctuary. Watch as modern-day visitors walk these paths with a sense of reverence. They are not just tourists. They are pilgrims of a different sort, drawn by the undeniable energy that permeates this space. They come from all corners of the globe, yet here they share a common language of awe and respect. Their quiet contemplation mirrors a deeper understanding that this place demands more than just a passing glance. And then there are the Quechua people, the direct descendants of those who built and worshipped here. For them, this is not a relic of a lost civilization, but a continuing part of their spiritual landscape. You can see it in their faces as they approach the ancient stones. They perform rituals, leaving offerings of coca leaves or pouring libations, just as their ancestors did centuries ago. They are not reenacting history. They are living it. Their connection to this site is unbroken, a vibrant thread stretching from the age of the Inca to the present day. When they speak the name of this place, it is not with nostalgia, but with a living, breathing sense of holiness. They are the guardians of its sacred fire, ensuring that the spirits of the mountains and the sky are still honored. As you look upon these magnificent carvings, it's impossible not to feel a sense of connection to those who chiseled them. These aren't just patterns in rock. They are stories. Stories of gods who walked the earth, of constellations that guided their lives, of ancestors whose wisdom still echoes. T-serpent carved with such precision isn't just a snake. It represents the underworld, the realm of knowledge and death. That condor, with its wings outstretched, symbolizes the upper world, the realm of the gods. And the puma, powerful and sleek, represents the earthly plane we all inhabit. Each groove and line is a syllable in a language of stone. They whisper tales of creation, of cosmic battles, of the delicate balance between humanity and nature. You can almost hear the voices of the priests, chanting to Inti, the sun god, as his first rays strike a specific point on the stone altar. You can feel the reverence of a community gathered, their lives intertwined with the cycles of the sun the moon, and the stars, all tracked and honored by these intricate carvings. These stones are not silent. You just have to learn how to listen. They speak of a worldview where everything was interconnected, a cosmic web with humanity as a vital part of its design. The stories are still here, waiting for us to pause, to look closely, and to hear their timeless whisper. Now, let's just be still for a moment. Listen. Can you hear it? That's the sound of the wind, a constant companion in these highlands. It weaves through the stone corridors, a mournful, beautiful song that has played for centuries. It's the breath of the Apis, the mountain spirits, sighing through the ages. Feel how it brushes against your skin. The same wind that touched the faces of Inca emperors and high priests. Look closer at the floor. Beneath these massive, perfectly fitted stones, you can see channels. These were not just for drainage. They carried water, the lifeblood of the Andes, through the heart of the temple. Imagine the sound of it. A gentle, constant gurgle, a liquid heartbeat beneath the stone floors. Water was sacred, a gift from the mountains, and here it flowed as part of the living temple itself, cleansing and purifying the sacred space. And then there is the light. Observe how it plays upon the surfaces of the carvings. As the sun journeys across the sky, different features are illuminated, while others fall into shadow. A face might emerge from the rock at dawn, only to disappear by midday. A geometric pattern might align perfectly with a beam of light during the solstice. This was not accidental. The Inca were masters of light and shadow, using the sun's daily and yearly journey to bring their stone creations to life. The light animates the stone, revealing its secrets moment by moment. It is a slow celestial dance between the sun and the rock, a performance that has been running daily for over 500 years. This sacred stillness is not an emptiness, it is a fullness. It's the fullness of history, of spirit, of nature, all converging in one powerful, resonant harmony. It's the wind whispering ancient secrets, the memory of water flowing beneath your feet, and the light painting stories on stone. As we stand here, amidst the silent stones and the whispering wind, we're reminded that some places are more than just locations on a map. They are portals. They connect us to the past, to the natural world, and to a sense of the sacred that often gets lost in the noise of modern life. The stillness here isn't an absence of sound. It's the presence of something profound. It's the enduring spirit of the Inca, a powerful energy that has outlasted empires and continues to inspire awe and reverence in all who come to listen. This place teaches us that what is built with intention, with spirit, and in harmony with the cosmos can achieve a form of immortality. The voices may have faded, but the stones still speak, the light still dances, and the sacred stillness remains. Thank you for joining me in this moment of reflection. The stories of the Andes are vast and deep, and we've only just begun to explore them. If you've been moved by the spirit of this place, make sure you're subscribed so you don't miss what's coming next. Hit that follow button, and let's continue this journey together. We've journeyed far, back through the mists of time, to the heart of the ancient Andes, where the Chavin culture flourished. We've walked the stone corridors of Chavín de Huántar, deciphered the cryptic messages on the Ramondi stela, and stood in awe before the Lanzón. Throughout this exploration, one figure has remained a constant, powerful presence, the Jaguar. And now, as our journey comes to a close, we gather our thoughts under the vast Andean sky, reflecting on the enduring message of this magnificent creature. The eternal Jaguar, more than just an animal, was a deity, a guide, a symbol of profound meaning that still resonates today. For the Chavin people, the Jaguar was the embodiment of ultimate power. It represented strength, not just in the physical sense, the raw, untamed force of a predator at the apex of its world, but this was the power to navigate the treacherous landscapes of both the earth and the spirit realm. To their Chavin, the shaman who could connect with the Jaguar spirit, gained its vision, its courage, and its authority. This strength was a vital force, a protective energy that guarded the community and maintained cosmic order. It was the assurance that even in a world of uncertainty, there was a power greater than themselves, a guardian watching over them from the shadows, its eyes like stars in the jungle night. But the Jaguar's symbolism goes deeper than just strength. It is a master of transformation. The Chavin shamans, through ritual and sacred plants, sought to transform themselves, to shed their human skin and take on the form and consciousness of the Jaguar. This was the ultimate journey of self-discovery and spiritual evolution. Transformation is a fundamental law of nature, and the Jaguar was its greatest teacher. It taught that change is not something to be feared, but a necessary passage to a higher state of being. It showed that one could move between worlds, the world of the living and the world of the spirits, the world of the day and the world of the night. This message of transformation is timeless. It reminds us that we too are capable of profound change, of shedding old beliefs and fears to emerge stronger and more aware. The Jaguar's spirit encourages us to embrace our own potential for metamorphosis, to find the power within us to reinvent ourselves and our world. And then there is balance. The Jaguar moves with a silent grace, a perfect equilibrium between raw power and measured control. It is a creature of duality, at home both on the earth and in the trees, a hunter of both land and water. For the Chavin, this represented the harmony of opposing forces. The universe was seen as a delicate balance of light and dark, sun and moon, life and death. The Jaguar deity, often depicted with both human and animal features, was the keeper of this balance. It stood at the crossroads of the natural and supernatural worlds, ensuring that neither side overwhelmed the other. This concept of balance is perhaps the most crucial lesson the Jaguar offers us today. In our own lives, we constantly seek equilibrium between work and rest, between our inner needs and outer demands, between our connection to technology and our connection to nature. The Chavin Jaguar is a powerful reminder that true strength lies not in extremes, but in finding that harmonious center, that still point in a turning world. As we look back at the Chavin culture, we see more than just ancient ruins and mysterious art. We see a reflection of a fundamental human quest, the search for a profound connection to the world around us. In a time before the written word as we know it, the Chavin people read the book of nature. The mountains were spirits, the rivers were veins of the earth, and the animals were messengers from the divine. The Jaguar was the ultimate messenger, a conduit to the sacred. Their entire cosmology was woven into the fabric of their environment. This deep, instinctual bond with nature is something that many of us in the modern world have lost, or are striving to reclaim. The Chavin legacy is a quiet but persistent call to remember that we are not separate from nature, but an intrinsic part of it. It urges us to listen to the whispers of the wind, to see the sacred in a soaring condor, and to feel the ancient power of the earth beneath our feet. Their culture also speaks to our timeless search for a connection to spirit. The elaborate rituals, the psychoactive plants, the shamanic journeys all were part of a sophisticated system designed to transcend the mundane and touch the face of the divine. The Chavin people sought answers to the great mysteries of existence. Where do we come from? What is our purpose? What happens when we die? Their art, filled with hybrid creatures and cosmic symbols, is a testament to this spiritual hunger. It shows a humanity grappling with the same questions that we ask ourselves today. The Jaguar deity was their guide in this quest, a powerful ally in navigating the unseen realms and bringing back wisdom for the community. The legacy of Chavin reminds us that the human spirit has always yearned for meaning, for a sense of belonging to something larger than ourselves. It validates our own spiritual journeys, whatever form they may take. So let us close our eyes for a moment. Picture the Andes at night. The sharp, cold air fills your lungs. Above, the Milky Way stretches across the sky, a river of stars so bright and close you feel you could almost touch it. The stone temples of Chavín de Huántar are silent, sleeping under the celestial glow. The world is hushed, and in this profound stillness, you can almost hear the echo of ancient chants, the faint rhythm of a drum. Imagine the spirit of the Jaguar, the eternal guardian, moving silently through the shadows of the ruins. It is not a ghost of the past, but a living presence, a symbol of the enduring power that resides within the land and within ourselves. Its golden eyes reflect the starlight, holding the wisdom of millennia. It is the strength to face our fears, the courage to transform our lives, and the grace to walk in balance. The message from the ancients, carried on the breath of the Jaguar, is a message of connection to nature, to spirit, and to the deepest parts of our own humanity. As you rest, Let this ancient peace settle over you. The stars watch on, just as they watched over the Chavin, and the spirit of the eternal Jaguar continues its silent, timeless vigil. Thank you for joining me on this incredible journey. If you've been moved by the story of the Chavin and their sacred Jaguar, please like, share, and subscribe. Your support helps us continue to explore these fascinating histories. Until next time, may you walk with strength, courage, and balance.